Hey, Witney.
Yes.
Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Critically Acclaimed, the podcast where highbrow and lowbrow collide.
Yeah!
Dramatic pause.
It's a good thing we have an explosion rather than just like two billiard balls hitting each other. It'd be less dramatic. Highbrow and lowbrow collide. See, it doesn't work as well.
Great, now I have to find that
Now
sound
you have to find that sound
effect.
effect.
Thanks, Witney.
You're welcome.
Gotta make a note of that. Who are you?
My name is Witney. My name is Witney Seibold. I am a film critic. I write for the internet. I appear on the radio from time to time. And who are you?
My name is William Bibbiani. I am a film critic for the internet as well. Everybody calls me Bibbs, and I too sometimes appear on the radio. I was on Press Play on KCRW this last Friday. If you want to listen to that, you can go check out their website. I was also recently, and I forgot to mention this in the previous episode, I was recently on the Hallmarkies podcast. In which we talked about...
It's a Bismarcky?
I wish.
Is it spelled like that?
No, it's actually a really fun podcast that's dedicated to all things Hallmark. Hallmark produces a ton of original content.
And you have a
the
very curious interest in what happens on the Hallmark channel.
Well, specifically at Christmas time. They put out dozens of new Christmas movies every single year, and I am there for it. And
in the best of cases... They are vaguely tolerable.
There's a few good ones. I want to hand that out there. There's a few genuinely good ones.
Okay.
The rest of them are like...
Just keeping Lacey Chabert in money.
Look, someone has to take care of her, and it might as well be me. No, it's like you get involved in the slasher genre, but for every like pretty good one, there's a ton of bad ones, but you still like them because they scratch the same itch.
Yeah.
That's kind of what Hallmark Christmas movies are. So I was on the Hallmarkies podcast, I think about 2 weeks ago now, and we talked all about the Hallmark filmography of the great Alicia Witt. Who is one of the great queens of Christmas over there, alongside Lacey Chabert and alongside Candace Cameron Bure. They're the top three. Oh, and Danica McKellar as well.
I was going to say Melissa Joan Hart is in there somewhere.
Yeah, she's not really. She's
okay.
not, like everyone. All those other people put out at least one Christmas movie a year. No, Melissa Joan Hart. You would think. It seems like it would be like in her wheelhouse right now, but that's not what she's doing. She's doing something else. Good for her. Anyway, so that's going on as well. But we are here to talk about movies, new movies for the most part, and also our big double feature.
That's right.
This week, we're going to be talking about later in the episode Michael Mann's catastrophic early horror movie, The Keep, which is not discussed quite often anymore, but it
is disgusting. So we'll talk about that.
It's a film that suffered a lot in production and post-production, and Michael Mann has been actively trying to keep it away, but it is currently available on Amazon, and you can watch it. It's not necessarily recommended.
I had to give him a few bucks. Like, there was no other way to find this than to just pay for it.
It's not just on streaming somewhere. You had to pay a few bucks on Amazon, which is fine. You pay for your content. But yeah, this is pretty unavailable for throughout most of the world and throughout most of its existence, but that's the film you chose on the poll, and we're going to review that, and we're going to review that with a very classic horror movie. We're also going to be reviewing a whole bunch of new releases, and it's kind of a weird week because none of us saw the same movies.
And I was unable to see a lot of movies. I just had a busy week. Hard to make it out to screenings in general, and I only was able to see one new release this week, and for that I apologize.
It happens. This week I will be reviewing Life of the Party, Breaking In, and the new anime film Lou Over the Wall, and you'll be reviewing a film called Beast. Let's start with probably the biggest new release, as we often do. It's a film called Life of the Party, and it stars Melissa McCarthy. It is
in a very Melissa McCarthy-esque setup.
Yeah. Basically, Melissa McCarthy does blank. That's a good Melissa McCarthy setup. Melissa McCarthy is an actor who has a great cinematic persona. She has a big personality, and she's very brash, but she's so darn likable she can get away with anything. And a lot of her comedies have been based on that. Here's Melissa McCarthy in The Boss. She's a boss of people.
And she treats people cruelly and insults them, but she doesn't quite understand how horrible she's being, so she kind of gets away with it.
And she learns a valuable lesson by the end of the film, but she's Melissa McCarthy, so there's like already this inherent likability, and we'll get through a lot of that movie because she is great. However, the problem with that formula is that for every time it works, like in arguably The Boss, I would say definitely works in The Heat. There's another one where they don't get the modulation right and it crashes and burns. I'm specifically thinking of Identity Thief.
Yeah, I feel like Hollywood is failing her. Yeah. Like she burst into the scene. I mean, she had been around, but she really came to the national attention with Bridesmaids. And ever since then, it's like Hollywood doesn't know what to do with her, and she doesn't even really know what she wants to do.
Well, that's just projecting. We have no idea,
perhaps, but she put together a film called Tammy, which was the same sort of thing. She wasn't like really delving into something really kind of deep or interesting, and she put that one together herself. That was her project, and
it was directed by Ben Falcone, who is married to her, and also directed The Boss, and also directed Life of the Party.
Okay.
So they have an idea of the material she wants to do, or maybe it's just the material they think is easiest to put together. But for my money, Melissa McCarthy is at her best when they just let you like her.
Yeah.
And I think Spy is great. Spy is another one of those comedies that's longer than it needs to be, but other than that, it's pretty sharp and very funny all the way through, and she's wonderful in it.
The failings of that movie have nothing to do with cliche or anything Melissa McCarthy did.
Yeah, it's just could have been more tightly edited. Basically, that's it. And Life of the Party is another one where she's just allowed to be nice. You hear Melissa McCarthy goes back to college, and you think it's going to be a remake of Back to School, like Rodney Dangerfield. And even that's not a terrible idea for a comedy. But here's the thing. Rodney Dangerfield went back to school, and he brought with him all of his,
all his Lothario habits.
Yeah, his big wild parties. He would hire famous authors. Didn't he hire Kurt Vonnegut to write his paper on Kurt Vonnegut?
That's right.
That's a funny joke.
And compounded by the fact that the professor said you clearly know nothing about Kurt Vonnegut. that was the punchline to that joke.
That's a good joke.
Yeah.
But that's the whole thing is he's a slob and he goes to the snooty college and he changes things around. And it's all about will college change him and make him better? Here's the thing with Life of the Party. Melissa McCarthy is already great. She has for most of her life been trapped in a marriage that we find out was not as loving as she thought it was. They drop off. The first scene just gets right to the heart of it. They drop off their daughter for her first day of her senior year of college.
Okay.
It's the same alma mater that Melissa McCarthy went to with her husband. In her senior year, she got pregnant and dropped out of school to have the kid because they couldn't afford everything altogether. And then she never went back, and it's her biggest regret. As they are driving away, they're not even out of the driveway. As they drop the daughter off, the dad says, "I want a divorce."
Wow.
And she just gets out of the car, takes a couple of scenes to get her shit together, and then she just decides, screw it, I'm going to finish college. And so she does.
Well, good for her. Okay.
Yeah, it's great. So she moves back onto the campus. She starts hanging out with her daughter. Her daughter is a little embarrassed at first, as you can imagine.
Wait, so she lives on campus?
She lives on campus. Her husband's taking the house. She has nowhere else to go.
Oh, well. But it's one of those fantasies where... And a parent of one of the students could live with the students.
Yeah. She has a dorm room. With a weird roommate and everything.
All right. So that's not quite realistic, but okay.
It's a bit of a stretch, but okay. And her daughter is a little embarrassed, and then her daughter quickly gets over it, and then everyone is just nice. There's a couple of mean people at school, and obviously her husband is a jerk. That's it. This isn't a movie about a ton of conflict, about a whole bunch of mean kids, and it's got to end with some huge competition at school where they got to defeat all the bullies. Well, it's actually just her
trying to put her life back together.
It's just her putting her life back together, her overcoming her insecurities, and she is so positive. She walks into a room and lights it up. Her daughter's in a sorority, and you would imagine she'd go into that sorority, people are like, oh, we have to hang out with the old lady. Everyone loves her. She's great. She's really fun to be around. She takes an interest in all of us. She's super supportive. This is great. We love having her around. And you would think that wouldn't be funny because you think of comedy and you think of slapstick and hitting people over the head and jokes about people's appearances and
broad, brightly lit Hollywood Melissa McCarthy type comedies. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, even just think about every comedy you've seen, and this is a lot of them lately. A lot of mainstream Hollywood comedies in which someone will show up and they have a bad looking beard, and then there's 2 minutes of riffing on it. And sometimes that can be funny, especially if the tone and the attitude is right. Yeah. Sometimes it can just be mean, but whatever. That's the humor, though, is they're going to make fun of your appearance. There's not a lot of that. It's actually just people being kind. And you can get a lot of humor out of it. It turns out that can be really funny. The movie takes a while to build up. I'll say that. There aren't a lot of laughs in like the first half hour. It's genial and it's nice, but there's not a lot to it. And then just once she's in college and when she is discovering herself and when she's partying, like one of the ongoing gags is just that she's so damned popular, it's weird. She goes to a frat party and there's this hunky like 21-year-old frat dude, and he immediately falls in love with her.
Okay.
And he thinks she's great. And they have great conversations, and they have incredible sex. She has to take the walk of shame with her daughter as they walk out of the same room in a frat house, and it's like, oh, this is so awkward. And mom wants to talk about the great sex she just had. It's like, Mom, I don't want to have this conversation with you. That's enough. You can get a lot of comedy out of that. I also want to give a shout out to Jillian Jacobs.
She the daughter?
No, she plays, because she's like in her, I think she's in her early 30s. She was in Community, and she plays a character who is too old to be in college. Melissa McCarthy, first thing I saw with Jillian Jacobs was just like, she looks a little old to be in college, and especially in undergrad. Yeah. And the first thing Melissa McCarthy said to me, she said, oh, you seem a little older than everyone else. Are you in grad school? And she's like, no, I was in a coma for 8 years. Oh. So she's a little out of it, and she's such a on TVtropes.com they call it a cloud cuckoo lander, a character who's just always in the clouds. Okay, a character who's always kind of spacey and weird, and yet she is really funny throughout the entire film. I was surprised at how much I like this because again, Melissa McCarthy's solo comedies are really hit and miss, just because I think sometimes the material, she's always good, but the material frequently lets her down. But this is a sweet movie, and it's a really good movie for Mother's Day. So I just want to say, because if Tully is a great Mother's Day movie, but it's really harsh, so I don't necessarily recommend that. Overboard is another Mother's Day movie that's out right now. It's not good. Life of the Party is quite good. Okay. And the other Mother's Day movie that's out this weekend.
There's a great surprise that's coming from... I feel like for the last few years, I've been surprised by a good number of kind of mainstream comedies that look terrible. Yeah. You see the preview... the first big surprise we all had that just shocked the critical community was several years ago when we all saw The Three Stooges. The Farrelly Brothers, nobody wanted to see The Three Stooges.
And it's a shame that people kind of forgot that movie came out, because it's funny.
And it came out, and every single critic left just laughing and laughing and laughing. It's a great comedy. It's just really well put together. And then
we had 21 Jump Street and 22 Jump Street, which were way better than anyone thought they would be.
Even stuff like Central Intelligence and Bad Moms and here recently Blockers. These are all these broad, awful-looking comedies that turn out to have a little bit of heart to them. Storks was another one that really surprised me, the animated film. It's that looked terrible. This is actually kind of a pretty funny slapstick comedy.
There's a lot of sweet performances and movies being made that are about people, and you actually give a damn about them. And they can still have a lot of stupid, sometimes lowbrow humor, but it's not like pandering to the worst parts of us. Yeah. And that's something
that's Adam Sandler's job.
That's something that as I grow older, I realize there's people who are younger than me, in their teens or 20s, and they're still finding that stuff funny. I found that stuff funny a long time ago, and that's fine. There are critics out there for you who will like that stuff, and hopefully they'll have a conversation with you about it rather than just say it's funny because it's dumb. It's fine. I'm at a point, and I think eventually you will be too, and then hopefully you'll spend most of your lives being older than you are now. You might end up at the point where just a movie that is as pleasant as Life of the Party is so refreshing and life-affirming and positive, and I really hope it's a hit because I want more movies like this. I would like that. The other big Mother's Day movie out this weekend is a movie called Breaking In. This is a movie from director James McTeague, who directed V for Vendetta and Ninja Assassin. And it is a home invasion movie with a kind of neat twist. Gabrielle Union plays a mother of two.
Just answer me one question before you get into the story or anything. Does somebody fall through a glass coffee table? Does Gabrielle Union throw somebody off a balcony and have them land on a glass coffee table?
I don't think anyone. Someone gets thrown off of a roof.
Okay.
but not onto a glass coffee table. I want to say someone gets hit into a glass coffee table, but I'm honestly not sure.
Okay.
It seems like the sort of thing that should happen.
Because that's what I want to see in a movie like this.
I understand. The movie is actually about Gabrielle Union has 2 kids, and her father was a wealthy hedge fund manager or stockbroker or something, and we find out at the beginning that he's being investigated for corporate malfeasance, and she inherits the big house she grew up in, isolated in the woods. And although I say this, one of the first things that happened, and I was like the only person in the theater going, "Yay!" was they get to the house and it's isolated and it's in the woods, and one of the first things the kid says is, "Wow, they have great cell phone reception here." I'm like, "Yay!" The writers were aware of memes. Because every time someone's isolated in a horror movie or a thriller...
There's that one shot where they have to establish that there's no cell phone reception.
Or that their cell phone died.
So you can write that out of the story.
Forgot my charger, something. Nope, they have good cell phone reception, and I like that. But instead of a bunch of crazy guys trying to break into the house, they're already in the house. But the house is so big they didn't know they were there. And then once she leaves the house to make a phone call... she sees them grab her kids and then activate the high-tech security measures, and now she has to break into the house in order to get her kids back.
Nice.
And that's a fun twist.
An inversion of the usual home invasion thing.
There's a reason to make that movie. Listen, a home invasion is, quite frankly, as a thriller goes, just a slam dunk premise. It's something that would terrify any of us. No matter how well prepared we are, no matter how well fortified our house is with a security system, it's a sort of thing where it's like someone has broken into your cone of safety, and that's scary. And it's a thing that doesn't happen to most people, but does occasionally happen. So it's this plausible scenario here. So a home invasion thriller, like something like The Strangers, is really scary most of the time. However, there's only so much you can do with it, so any twist is really appreciated. And it ends up just being Gabrielle Union summoning her inner badass and trying to get her kids back. And whenever it's just focusing on that, it's pretty solid. It's kind of unremarkable. It never quite tips from good to great.
Okay.
Gabrielle Union is a great lead, and it just sort of reminds you, like, oh yeah, she should be starring in a lot of movies all the time.
She's around.
She's around, but
she's not hurting for work.
She should be a star.
Okay.
That's my thing. There's no reason why she shouldn't be a star. And you look at something like Breaking In, and again, it's a 3-star at best, thriller, but she owns it, and she's really, really good. The problem with this movie is... The biggest problem with this movie is that it's such a simple premise, and yet it still falls apart under its own failed logic. And it's sort of thing where you can actually be distracted by. Like, the whole premise is these criminals are breaking into this house because they know that her father was a criminal and that he had liquidated all of his assets. And he has millions of dollars hidden somewhere on the estate.
So it's the guys from Panic Room.
Yeah, it's Panic Room. It's an inverted Panic Room. He has millions of dollars here, and if the government knew about it, they would seize it. So they have to try to find it before anyone else does.
Okay.
Here's the problem. If he owes the government that much money, they would seize the house, and Gabrielle Union wouldn't be there.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, so the whole movie doesn't need to exist.
If the government doesn't know about those assets, then the IRS
they know about the house.
It. They know about the house. So does he owe money?
Apparently.
He would only owe taxes on the assets that the government doesn't know about yet. So if the government, if he has a pile of cash that nobody knows about, but these guys do, then that makes sense.
The way that was explained in the movie made it sound like he owed the government tons of money.
Oh, okay.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe. But
I didn't see it. So
here's what I'm going to say. They did not make that clear, and they should have.
Yeah.
There's a couple things they don't make super clear, and they should have, and it's kind of frustrating.
Does it ever enter that kind of grindhousey drive-in, just Gabrielle Union picking up a candlestick and beating a guy to death sort of action?
It's in there, but it feels like it's pulled back a little bit.
Oh, I hate that.
That's my point, is it never goes from good to great. It never, becomes this rah-rah heroism thing. And I was ready for that, and I wanted that by the end. I really wanted it to kind of explode. But it feels like it's pushing. It's a PG-13 movie, and it's kind of violent. But it feels like it's really striving to hit PG-13, and as a result, it doesn't want to take a lot of chances. And that's frustrating because
it's the movie Obsessed. You see Obsessed with
Idris Elba and Ali Larter and Beyonce Knowles.
Where see, Beyonce throws Ellie Larder through a glass coffee table.
Oh, fuck yeah, she does.
That's what you need to know about that movie.
Obsessed is all about the last cat fight.
Yeah.
Like, the last fight between Beyonce and Ellie Larder. They embrace,
that's why you go.
Yeah, you go for that movie to see, it's you know what it is it's Fatal Attraction again.
Yeah, no, it was a PG-13 Fatal Attraction.
And that's part of the problem. And one of the things is that they tried so hard to make everything kind of middle of the road that they kind of ruined it. Idris Elba and Ali Larter in that movie, they don't even have an affair. He doesn't even do anything wrong. The whole point of Fatal Attraction was he did something wrong and he got punished for it 1,000,000 times over, but he brought it on himself. With Obsession, Idris Elba just goes to work one day, a new lady says, "Oh, I like him, I'm going to be a villain."
Yeah.
And that's it.
And she flashes him once in lingerie, and that's tantamount to having an affair.
Yeah, it's nothing. And it's the sort of thing where you're just sort of frustrated because the movie is afraid to go somewhere intense. And it never does until the end, which is great. So kudos to Obsessed for getting there. Like, Breaking In is on like a low simmer throughout most of the movie, and that's enough. And honestly, like, if you go see this movie with a good crowd of people, you're gonna have fun with it. But I'll tell you this: if this is probably the kind of movie that would have been even more appreciated if it had gone straight to Netflix. It's got recognizable actors. It's got a good pace that people would be really talking about it and saying, "Hey, did you see that new thing? Do you think on Netflix that was really good?" But in theaters, I'm worried it's going to get kind of surpassed by all the summer content. Yeah. So I'm hoping it finds a good enough audience that it does what it needs to do, because it's a good premise. Gabrielle Union's good in it. It's a fun watch, but it's kind of unremarkable.
Unremarkable. There's a habit of... I'm really tired of seeing R-rated movies being crammed into the PG-13 mold.
Yeah.
Like, Hollywood is looking at sort of the grindhouse past of, sort of the underground, and seeing what was popular back then. All these, like, really ultra-violent, really edgy, dark, sexual movies. Mm-hmm. And they're trying to take those same premises without realizing that those premises were vehicles for the exploitation elements. Yeah. Like, it's a Breaking In movie. Well, we're doing this so we can deliver blood and nudity to audiences. That's their only function.
Well, it doesn't have to be their only function. You can say something.
They're taking the violence and the sex off of the train car and saying, "Wow, look, see our empty train car? It's really nice." It's like, no, there's nothing here.
And what it ends up feeling like is like all of these, like, sort of the erotic thriller genre, the I had an affair and it goes super bad genre. Those vanish from theaters, but they're alive and well on the Lifetime network. And but on Lifetime, they're really chill. Like, there's not a lot you can do in them,
and so they hammer heavily on the morality without giving us the immorality that is the raison d'etre of the genre.
Yeah, well, the immorality justifies the morality. We were immoral. We learned a valuable lesson. And all of those movies, or at least the vast majority, are morality plays. We go for the sin, but at the same time, they exist in order to say, and here's why we don't do that. Yes, it's fun for the first scene, but then there are consequences. And there's a lot of finger wagging there, and a lot of it feels really disingenuous, but that is their social function. They do have a social function beyond prurience, I think.
Yeah. The prurience, however, is a vital element, is my argument.
Yeah, if you take that out, it loses all its teeth.
Yeah, if you have somebody wagging your finger, all you're getting is finger wagging. And... the finger wagging was only an afterthought. Yeah. Well, and again, because we can't have a movie that is just like sex after sex. That's just pornography.
And here's the thing: Gabrielle Union does nothing to deserve any of this. So it's not even really in that genre. Gabrielle Union is a mother protecting her kids. That's all it is. This is a Tiger Mom movie, and she's good at that. Billy Burke plays the main bad guy. You remember him as the dad from Twilight, like the best part of that whole franchise. He's really good.
The only human character in that movie.
Yeah. And I mean that on a multiple levels. Like, he's great. He's good here. He's got a character who's like trying to sort of kind of mentally control her, and it really feels like they could have gone further with that. Maybe have something more to say about the way men treat women or the way men underestimate women, and they play with it a little bit. But if they had hit that home, and if they had made that part of the psychology of the movie, and they'd really pushed it, it really could have been really cheer-inducing to see her get one over on him. And as it stands, it's in there, but it's just never amazing, and that's a shame because it could have been, and it's so close. But as it feels like a genre exercise, and it's had this fun twist, but then they never found the theme or the point other than Gabrielle Union is badass. And I'm telling you this right now, she is. So ultimately I do recommend it, but it's just not amazing. Tell me about Beast.
Beast is a British film that's hitting the indie circuit. It's a horror romance in a way that's getting a lot of acclaim. A young woman is growing up on a really well-moneyed island off the coast of England. She is tortured and hates her home life. Her mom is really kind of doting. They're these really kind of really clean blue bloods, and early in the film it's established pretty firmly that she has a lot of darkness in her soul and doesn't relate to any of the world around her. The world is very dark, it's very foggy, it's very British. And I have to say this too, because the premise I'm about to describe to you is like straight out of a Nicholas Sparks romance. Because she goes out partying, she runs away from her birthday party because she hates it. She runs out to a bar, she goes out drinking. She meets a young man, kind of flirts with him, spends the morning with her and with him, and when he gets a little bit handsy, he is scared off by a handsome stud with a gun. This handsome stunned. This handsome stud lives on the island. He's clearly kind of dangerous. He's clearly kind of a bad boy. He lives alone. He works with his hands. He's a flawless rescue stud.
Yay!
In that sort of Nicholas Sparks mold.
Flawless rescue stud, for people who don't know, is a term Witney has coined, and we have to popularize it. For the male character, typically in a romantic melodrama, but really any kind of romance, who is distractingly perfect and really kind of only exists as a
savior for the female character.
Yeah, you'll see this in a lot of Nicholas Sparks. Safe Haven is like Josh Duhamel is like the ultimate version of this. He's not only studly, he has adorable kids, so you know he's good marriage material, but his wife died, but of natural causes, nothing mysterious, and just long enough ago
that he's getting over it and ready to date again.
And it's not going to be like a lot of baggage for you to deal with, so it's totally fine. And he'll like fix your bike without telling you about it.
He knows how to fix everything around the home. He has kids, so he knows how to be fatherly and how to give advice. He's a good nurturer, but at the same time, he's played by Josh Duhamel, and he has like 8-pack abs and is a sexual dynamo who is willing to take your hand and lead you into higher planes of sexual ecstasy.
The line you had, which I've never heard in a movie, but it might as well be in a lot of movies with flawless rescue studs, is, I'm not really happy unless I'm changing myself for you.
Yeah. He is willing to do whatever it takes to make sure you're comfortable. He's willing to put up with whatever bullshit you have. Now, this flawless rescue stud is flawed. Because, you see,
inverting the trope.
There is a serial killer stalking about the island, you see.
Ooh.
Victims are turning up, teenage girls, shallow graves, severed limbs, all of the really juicy stuff you go to like a Thomas Harris novel to see. And there's some suspicion that it might be him. And even though she's a little bit terrified that it might be this guy, she's willing to cover for him and doesn't believe it because everybody's after him. And she's always felt so persecuted, and that she's willing to sort of stand up for him. And she has a little bit of violence in her soul. She has an incident in her past. Now, again, this is not Nicholas Sparks' sun-dappled, tortured romance. This is hard, dirty horror. There's a lot of, like, the darkness we see in her soul is something that she's kind of trying to come to terms with, in that she understands that it's there and is trying to figure out how much she wants to welcome it back. And knowing that this guy is stalking around, potentially murdering people, is putting her at odds with the rest of the island, but also making her face the fact that she might not mind so much. If he might be the killer. And it goes to some pretty dark places. There are, definite answers do come to light about, who the killer might actually be, and I'm not going to say who. But the embrace of that darkness is where this movie really kind of finds its purchase.
That's my thing, because it sounds like you're describing a lot of movies. Is it a thriller? Is it a romance? Is it a genre mashup? What is it? When we go into a theater, what should we expect?
Functionally, it's a romance, because it is about the relationship between these two people. But because the air of death is not just floating in the air, but is kind of permeated so deeply that it becomes part of the heroine, that it's more like a horror movie.
It sounds like Stoker.
And yeah, it's like Stoker without all of those sort of rococo, over the top stylistic underpinnings.
Okay.
It's much more naturalistic, and it feels much more psychologically realistic as a result. Stoker has you really at arm's distance. I did not like Stoker. It took a lot of these kind of melodramatic horror novel tropes, and I think played them up to a degree where it became kind of insufferable to watch. It was more about its style.
I don't know. I thought that worked, honestly. I'm not a huge fan of it. I know people who live and die by Stoker.
Okay.
And just say Stoker is a modern classic. I think
Stoker's really obvious. It's
super obvious. I think it works, but it's obvious. Yeah.
This plays with sort of the ambiguity and the psychological aspects of it a lot more strongly.
Okay.
I love the lead actress. Let me look up her name. Because I think I've seen her before.
Okay, you can do it.
But she's able to communicate a lot. Just sort of the way she holds herself. The rest of her family, Jessie Buckley, that's her. She isn't as well put together as the rest of her family. Her mom is very stern and is always dressed in really nice, clean white suits, and she has a sister who is pretty in a really kind of fragile way. And she is clearly much more earthy than that. And she spends a lot more time literally laying down in the dirt and rubbing filth on herself. There's a scene where she lays down, near the end, where she lays down on the ground, rubs dirt on herself, and starts eating dirt. She's clearly of the earth. She's of a much more primal space than the rest of these cleaner people that she's around. And of course, the first time she and this young man consummate their relationship, it's out in the middle of a field and they're just getting filthy. And we understand that there's this animalistic urges that are coming out through her character.
Beastly urges, if you will.
Hence the title.
Hey!
Beast. It's fascinating. It's really, really a terrific movie. It's a really good showcase for the characters, and it's a really good psychological study. There are times you wish it had gone to further extremes than it does. Just like you were describing with Breaking In. You expect something to break open at some point, and just the madness to pour forth, and it doesn't ever really get to that level.
Is it disappointing by the end, or is it?
It's not disappointing because it actually plays it quite well.
Okay.
And it does go to, again, I don't want to say what happens, but it does go to a certain extreme that you might not see coming.
Cool.
But it would be unsatisfying if it didn't. So yeah, it's quite good.
Great. Okay. Well, the last film is an anime movie, opening in limited release. It is called Lou Over the Wall. It is a new film.
Lou,
from
like L-O-U?
L-U.
L-U. Lou, okay.
Her name is Lou. It is from director Masaaki Yuasa. That's a name I don't think a lot of people know yet, but I think you might, because between this movie and his recent TV project, Devilman Crybaby, which recently premiered on Netflix, he is a particularly interesting voice.
Okay.
Devilman Crybaby, if you haven't checked it out, is an apocalyptic anime series about demons hiding out in human form, and you think you know where it's going, and you do not. It is crazy. It is harrowing. It is horrifying. It is disturbingly violent. And it is narratively bold in a way I did not expect, and I think it is really impressive. So I was excited to see what he was going to do with the movie, and this is basically a kids' movie that is also completely insane. It is yet another adaptation of Little Mermaid, but this one goes in unusual directions. I think I described it in my review on The Wrap as a combination of The Little Mermaid, Ponyo, that one mermaid subplot from Beach Blanket Bingo, and that time you ate a moldy tangerine and saw new kinds of colors. It's very, very odd.
Okay.
It's about a young boy. He's in middle school. He's introverted. He's very pessimistic. His parents are divorced. He lives in a seaside community. And he wants to be a musician, but he also doesn't want to do anything about that. He just wants to stay at home and do his own thing. But a couple of kids at school find out about that, and they form a band called Siren, and they decide to rehearse in secret at the nearby Merfolk Island. It's not just a name. and
so they're just mermaids.
There are mermaids.
Okay.
And no one knows that they're real. There's like a lot of people don't think that they're real. There's a lot of people in town who have heard the legends of the mermaids and believe that they're real, but they also believe that they are terrible and occasionally kill people.
Okay.
So as they are playing their music, one of the mermaids named Lou, looks like a young girl, but she's probably much older than that, loves their music and decides to join the band.
Okay.
And she's great, and it's really cute, and it feels like a beach blanket bingo type movie. And then they do a show, and then the mermaid kind of outs herself to the world, and then it goes completely insane all over the place. The movie just completely flits about between tone and genre, and it's nuts. Even the animation goes from this really kind of beautiful classical Hayao Miyazaki Studio Ghibli look to this extremely elastic, almost Bill Plimpton look at the drop of a hat, and it's really just like chaotic and strange. The plot goes on that this town once sacrificed a mermaid because the mermaids in this world are actually like vampires. If they're hit by direct sunlight, they explode. Also, if they bite anything, it becomes a mermaid.
Okay.
Anything.
So like a rock, it turns into a mermaid.
I don't think they try an inanimate object, but one thing that happens is Lou's father finds out that Lou is like hanging out with like humans, and you saw Ponyo with that Liam Neeson character and like the weird clothes, and he's trying to put a stop to all this oddness. Well, this one is a 50-foot tall shark with a mustache and a business suit and a giant parasol, so he can walk around town. And one of the first things...
Okay, what did you take before you saw this movie?
I don't know, but it was great. And he's walking around town, and one of the first things he does is he runs across a bunch of people who are packing the fish that have just recently been caught in salt for delivery, and they're waiting for the guy to come in to show them the right way to do it, because they're new. Mm-hmm. So this 50-foot tall shark in a business suit and a mustache shows up, and they assume it must be the guy. And one of the things he does is, before he hands in the soup, he just bites each fish. Doesn't ruin it, doesn't swallow it, just bites it. Mm-hmm. And then later on, people are eating the fish, and then the fish, like on their plate, dead, get up and walk out back to sea.
So he's saving those fish.
No, like everything is a mer person. People find out the mermaids are real. The mermaids get like scapegoated into a child who may have been kidnapped, and there's like a whole riot in the streets, kill all the mermaids kind of thing. Old ladies are trying to harpoon mermaids in the ocean, and you're like, what the fuck is going on? And I'll say this right now, it's not bad. But it is also really hard to categorize. Like, you keep wanting the movie to settle down and become one thing. And I'm going to give the movie a lot of credit for a lot of unbridled imagination, visually, musically, narratively. But it might be a little too manic for its own good. And I think there's a lot of people who are going to lose patience with it. If, on the other hand, something that is that wild sounds like it's up your alley, I really highly recommend checking this movie out.
Is this in theaters?
It is in theaters. It's in limited theaters. I'm sure it's going to be released on home video sooner than later. But it's certainly worth checking out. It's, again, I don't think it's an instant classic or anything like that, but I think there's a certain audience that's really going to go for this. Okay. And I think there's a certain audience that's really just going to go, you know what? I'm just gonna drink a nice cup of tea and like sit on my porch. Like, that's this movie made me old. I'm good. It's a little too young and energetic for me. I think there's an audience for that. I mean, I'm in the middle. I can see it both ways. Yeah,
well, it just makes me want to watch The Lure again.
I still haven't seen The Lure.
Oh, The Lure is terrific. The Lure. Oh, golly, The Lure.
Yeah.
The Lure is a Polish lesbian cannibal mermaid musical from a couple years back. It's released in the States in 2016, I think.
Mermaids are quietly becoming the new thing. Have you noticed that? Like, very subtly. Like, there's just a new one every 6 months or so. A new big mermaid thing. It's like a mermaid TV series that's on right now.
There were endless adaptations and re-releases of Little Mermaid stories following the success of the Disney animated film.
Sure were.
That in the wake of that's when I saw like a big wave of mermaids, and it just sort of died out after a while.
I think the apex of mermaid storytelling was not The Little Mermaid, although that's up there. That's a great movie. I'm not going to say an unkind word about it. For me,
you can if you like.
I think a few things here or there, or backward or whatever like that. But certainly, it's a triumph of animation in a lot of ways. I think that the mermaid storytelling trend has hit an apex, and I don't know if we're ever going to get any higher than Moonquake Lake.
The song for Moonquake Lake is just on the radio now.
It's great.
Like, it leaked out into the consciousness.
Moonquake, I want to take a dip in Lake U. I want to away.
Moonquake Lake was the fake movie that the characters went to go see the premiere of in that completely forgettable and really awful remake of Annie.
Yeah, it's the best thing in a bad movie I've seen in a while. Sometimes you watch a bad movie and there's like a good performance or a funny scene and you're just like, well, I'm glad I saw that. Moonquake Lake is such a wonderful fake movie that I really wish it existed.
In the fake credits on the fake movie, Moonquake Lake was attributed to Lord and Miller.
Yes!
I don't know if Lord and Miller actually came up with that, but it sounds like something they might have.
And it sounds like something they do great. It stars Mila Kunis as like a mermaid from the moon trying to stop a moon war when she falls in love with a human person.
Mm-hmm. Somebody please make Moonquake Lake.
Moonquake Lake is amazing. I'm sure you can just find a clip of just Moonquake Lake online. Check it out. It looks great. It is one of the most merciless, yet accurate, and yet really just nails the appeal of a lot of YA movies that were out at the time. And I really liked at the end, because Jamie Foxx played Moneybags, whatever is Mr. Biggs or whatever it was.
Daddy Warbucks.
Well, they changed his name. He wasn't Warbucks in the remake.
Yeah, I guess not. But
like Mr. Moneybags or whatever he was, and he took her out, and he had no interest in this movie. And at the end, he was just like, "Oh, I have all these unanswered questions. What will the war ever break out? Do you think she'll ever meet her father?" It's like, well, they're going to make a sequel. There's going to be a sequel. Like he's on board. That's how good Moonquake Lake is. Moonquake Lake won him over before Annie did.
Won over Daddy Warbucks.
Before Annie won him over. That's a good movie.
Daddy Warbucks is bald in that movie, but he hides it. But he has
that at all.
But he has like a really closely cropped hairdo, so it's like his wig is almost like a plastic cap. He has to snap onto his bald head.
I don't remember that at all.
Why bother doing that? If you're gonna have fake hair, have like big fake hair.
It's an odd production. All right,
that's such a terrible film. It's so bad.
You liked it even less than I did. I think there's a couple of good things in there besides Moonquake Lake. I just don't think it's a total wash, but it's not good.
So what would you rate Lou Over the Wall?
I'm really torn. It's definitely not a C-. And again, our rating system is C-, definitely don't go see it. Or we definitely don't recommend it. C, mixed bag, could go either way, and a C+ is a definite recommendation. I think there are people out there for whom my description will tell you it's a definite recommendation, and there are people out there for whom my description will be a definite not recommendation. So I'm going to split the difference and say it's a C.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Manic and strange, especially by surprise, is always pleasant.
Yeah.
So... or at least unexpected.
Yeah, so hopefully I've given you the information you need to make that decision yourself. So I'm going to split the difference and say it's a C, but depending on who you are, it might be a C+. Beast.
Beast, I'm going to give a C+. It is psychologically intriguing and well constructed in that regard. So I think you should go see it.
Okay, Breaking In, rock solid C. Certainly mostly well made, never quite tips into great territory. If you're at all a fan of Gabrielle Union, you should definitely go see it. Other than that, gonna be a really good rental someday. And then Life of the Party, C+, just really funny, sweet, good movie. I like it.
You surprise me.
I'm a little surprised too. Again, Melissa McCarthy and Ben Falcone, they've been really hit or miss. Tammy, I like Susan Sarandon in it, but it's not a very good movie. The Boss, there's a lot of things I really like about it. There's this one.
I didn't see The Boss.
There's this one huge, big, Girl Scout fight sequence in the middle that goes Anchorman insane, and it's really funny. There's some good bits in there, but it's not doesn't hold up super great. But yeah, they got the formula right. They knew exactly what to do and exactly how to make Melissa McCarthy just shine and not have any of the material weigh her down. So it's really, really good, and I highly recommend it.
Okay. They're figuring it out. So it sounds like they've finally maybe unlocked it.
I hope so, and I hope we get more movies like it. Now, our big double feature for this week.
Hooray! We need a fanfare, like a theme song or something.
Damn it, we probably do. Damn it, you're probably right. Okay, well, and anyway, so your options this week on the Schmoville Facebook page, because you get to pick the bad film, listeners, if you join the Schmoville ! Facebook page, and we put a poll up every Sunday. Your options
were all... The category was great directors who made bad movies.
Yes, and which most directors have at least one. And we narrowed it down to 3 for the sake of this poll. Your choices were Brian De Palma's The Bonfire of the Vanities.
Now, to be fair, Brian De Palma has made his share of stinkers.
Oh, yes.
But he's also made some of the best films of the 70s and 80s, so...
Yeah,
there you have it.
Yeah, I think he is well respected, but isn't great all the time. Your other option was Alfred Hitchcock's Topaz, which isn't talked about very much for good reason. And this isn't one of his like early obscure silent movies either. This is like a 1960s movie. It was a spy thriller,
kind of at the height of his powers in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it was like right after The Birds, and yeah, it is dramatically inert. And we could have talked about that at great length. However, instead, you picked Michael Mann's The Keep.
From 1983.
Michael Mann had just come off his first theatrical directorial feature. It's just called Thief. Stars James Caan as a thief. And it is a classic. It is an exceptionally well-made movie, and it's still one of the best crime/heist movies ever produced, and I will stand by that, and I think everyone should see it. There's a really great Criterion release out of it.
He also wrote the screenplay for Straight Time, so he was definitely a known quantity.
And then for his big follow-up to Thief, what he decided to do was adapt F. Paul Wilson's very popular, every time this movie comes up, someone in the room has said that they've read this book and they loved it, horror novel The Keep. And The Keep is a World War II story about a bunch of Nazis who are occupying a giant a keep, if you will. It's basically a castle in Romania.
It's a Lovecraftian edifice.
It really is, especially in the movie.
Like, it's not with crenellations and arrow slits and drawbridges type castle. It's just a big obelisk with a hole in it.
And what they discover is that the keep was not meant to keep anyone out. It was meant to keep an ultimate evil force in, and they're not allowed to leave or they'll be killed. But every night, more of them die, and they're having horrible nightmares, and a strange creature has been unleashed. It's a good setup for a movie.
Okay, Nazis versus demon in single location, like...
And the cool thing is that you're kind of rooting for, and you're rooting for the demon too.
Yeah.
So
Corman could have done that. It would have been great as just sort of a really schlocky B picture.
Yeah.
Michael Mann tries to make it really serious.
He tries to make it Kubrickian,
adding a lot of portent and slow pacing to the point where it's boring.
This movie is like 96 minutes long, and it feels like 5 hours.
It really, and there's a lot of weird elements and recognizable actors.
Oh yeah, it's really recognizable.
The Germans are led by Jürgen Prochnow from Das Boot and In the Mouth of Madness and Beer Fest and a lot of other movies you probably
House of the Dead.
Yeah,
he plays Captain Kirk. Kirk jokes.
Yeah, he's been around. His superior, who shows up later in the film, is played by Gabriel Byrne. There is an angelic presence to counter the demonic presence, played by Scott Glenn, with blue eyes.
And he's playing this very sage-like character. It's very proto his character Stick from the Daredevil TV series you probably
there
seen.
you go. Yeah.
And someone else they bring in because it turns out, there's a horrifying presence here, but we can't translate all this mysterious texts that's being carved into the walls. Only one person knows what any of this means. The problem is he's
infirm.
He's infirm, and he's in a concentration camp right now. So they bring in a Jewish historian played by years before anyone knew who he was. He was a master thespian of the stage. He was in the original production of Amadeus. He was a big deal in the theater. But before he was a movie star of any kind, big, huge early role for Ian McKellen.
Before he was not even Sir Ian McKellen yet. This is just Ian McKellen.
What's surreal is because he's so infirm that he's actually like prematurely aging. So he's playing like Ian McKellen now, but he was like 40.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, he de-ages over the course of the film.
I know, it's just surreal to see him like, young Ian McKellen, what's he going to look like? He looks like he looks now.
Yeah, they wheel him in a wheelchair, and he's gray, and he's all wrinkled, and it's good age, to be fair, it's good enough age makeup.
It's pretty convincing, yeah.
Yeah, and he translates it, and turns out he knows kind of what's going on, that a demon's going to start wandering around the halls. The demon is big 9-foot rubber mannequin with muscle all over it.
Yeah, sometimes it looks better than others. There's a couple of shots where it looks kind of cool. There's this really cool shot where it's like floating through a hallway and smoke is billowing from it. That's a great shot.
It's a really great effect, and it's not like just a being, like a person yet. It's just sort of like this being in mist that's floating through the hallway, and that looks really cool and it's really scary.
But as it comes further down the hallway, the smoke dissipates more and more, and you start seeing that there's something in there. Then it's great. But every time there's a close-up, it looks like an expensive Halloween costume you could get from a store.
It looks like a character from the Wildcats comics from the early 90s, really. Just looks like a Rob Liefeld drawing. It's really stupid looking.
Yeah. It looks
like it's cool designed in sort of like a comic booky kind of way, but it does not fit this weird sort of slow, portentous tone that Michael Mann was going for.
Because seriously, he's going for Kubrickian here. There's a lot of mood, there's a lot of atmosphere, there's a lot of long shots.
A lot of dark angles and black backgrounds.
This is a movie that's leaving stuff to your imagination for most of it, and then you see the monster, and it's hard not to snicker. It's trying to go, really? Really?
And it moves its jaw to talk, and it's got that weird kind of rubbery Muppet, no lips moving kind of thing.
And that's a damn shame is what that is. But
they put a lot of energy into that design, but it's just not the right design for this movie.
So the plot continues apace, and the plot is actually like even the people who are responsible for like keeping control of the keep, they don't think anything's going on. They just use this as an excuse to get him out of a concentration camp so they could help him escape.
Yeah.
Which is actually really good. And then he finds out that this demon is real. It rescues his daughter who is with him at the time. And he makes a deal with the demon to kill all the Nazis.
Yeah.
And all of them. If he can help the demon escape the keep, he'll end World War II.
The demon wants to destroy the world. It's Satan. It wants to bring about the apocalypse. And the demon says, well, I mean, yeah, I'm an angel of destruction, but yeah, I can kill whoever you want. It's like, yeah, kill all the Nazis. That's great.
And the demon says, yeah, probably leaving out and everyone else.
Yeah, I'll definitely kill all the Nazis and people.
The emotional crux of the story, and they really airball it because it spends more time with the Nazis than it does with Sir Ian McKellen. But
the Nazis are the sympathetic characters here,
which is super surreal.
Yeah. And I understand they're trying to invert some things, but I don't think they play it very well.
That's a topic conversation I want to get to, but I just want to finish my thought on Ian McKellen. His whole story arc is that he's an expert in the history of this place, but he doesn't believe in it. He actually is an atheist. He doesn't believe he's Jewish, but he doesn't believe in anything. And so when a demon shows up to him and proves that it's real, he's like, oh, great. I will use this, and I will use this to destroy the evil that men does. And it becomes this big issue of faith for him. And it becomes a very maniacal form of faith for him. And that's an interesting story that the movie does almost nothing with. At least until the end, when there's a big dramatic moment where he's just walking down a hallway for 5 years. And, I digress. But yeah, the fact that the Nazis are, for a lot of this movie, the protagonist really doesn't work. I can imagine it being kind of creepy in like a book, but in a movie, you're trying to maintain our interest over time. And we're spending so much time with these people, and they're fucking Nazis. Most of them are terrible people. And even the good ones are Nazis.
We can look at a Nazi and say, well, that's just a Nazi, and write them off immediately. But we also see them doing horrible things.
Yeah.
Like, even if you had no idea what a Nazi was for some reason, you would still see them like murdering people and being cruel and horrible and trying to loot this castle.
Yeah, like
the thing that unleashes the demon is they're trying to loot the castle. The only thing that's in the castle are these T-shaped little windows.
Yeah, made of nickel.
And they think, oh, these are made of silver. No, they're made of nickel. Well, I found one that's made of silver, so I'm going to pry it out of the wall, and that's what unleashes the demon.
Of course. And a really amazing shot, because
the wall opens up and it like sinks really far down into the ground.
Yeah, and it's like space is insane. Like, it's one of the best Lovecraftian shots I've ever seen in any movie. But like Jürgen Prochnow is, for lack of a better word, the good, and I heavy air quotes, good Nazi, because he fought against fascists in an earlier war. He clearly doesn't believe in a lot of the more horrifying rhetoric. On the other hand, at the beginning of the movie, he also has a speech about how the Nazis are winning the war. This is great. We're on top of the world. Everything's wonderful. And I'm just like, no. Yeah. You're horrible. You're a Nazi.
There wasn't a time in history when you could sort of say, And the Nazi ethos was going to be okay.
Yeah,
Not even at any point in history. That was never okay.
And again, if you want to do a story about how all these people are horrible and, like, you know, that's the point, that's fine. But the movie sometimes seems to really want to make you sympathize with them. And that does not work at all.
The moral balance here is this man who escaped from a concentration camp was so harshly wronged that he is willing to bring about the apocalypse as a form of revenge. That's a moral dilemma.
Now, that's a good story.
And that's a good story. And we brush up against it. And if you're trying to do something like create sympathy for Nazis, let's create something that's even worse than Nazis. A demon that wants to destroy the world.
Literally all life on the planet. That's worse.
For whom do you root in that situation? That makes an interesting moral conundrum for the audience. Two evils are fighting each other. Who do you root for in that situation?
Yeah.
Movie brushes up against that too. The Scott Glenn character is this kind of angelic presence who sees what's coming, and he travels to the keep to sort of battle against.
Yeah, a lot of the movie is like Scatman Crothers and The Shining.
He's
like will
spends
he get there?
A lot of time just going there, and he's. And you think he's sort of like this otherworldly being, like he's an angel of some sort, but he's
got purple eyes.
Yeah, he's got these really like he's seen doing like spell-like things at one point. But he takes time to just sort of sleep with a woman, like have an affair.
Like Serena McKellen's daughter, they like managed to like get her out of the keep through not very good trickery, and so she's staying at the inn where Scott Glenn is, and the movie just stops for a while.
Well, so he can seduce her. Yeah,
and they have this weird, really protracted tantric sex where they make like weird symbols with their legs.
Yeah.
And you're just sort of, it's one of the weirder sex scenes I've seen.
And
I
got the sense that the sex was like part of his holy purity, like he's kind of drawing on the sexual energy of the world and the kind of charging himself up in that way.
I'm glad someone got the sense of something. He's in the town and he has superpowers. Walk up to the keep. It's right there.
If he needs to do that, first of all, that's stupid. Secondly, if you're going to do that, make that like a stronger theme, not just something he needs to do on the way that you clearly just thought of on the way.
Yeah. So the keep, we can go on and we will, but I want to talk a little bit about it. This is a film that had massive production problems,
and you can kind of tell because it doesn't make any sense.
It was a long production. The visual effects were got messed up. I think the visual effects artist, I believe, died during production.
Oh, no, okay.
And they didn't actually know how to finish them. Like, he was just so... 2 weeks into post-production, visual effects supervisor Wally Weavers died.
Okay.
And apparently no one knew how he was going to finish a lot of the visual effects scenes. The climactic big battle that was supposed to happen ended up not really being filmed, and so they had to shoot something else. Michael Mann had originally had a 210-minute cut of the movie.
Oh my god!
That's probably a work
a work print. Yeah,
a work print. Now, when people say like, "Oh, there was original 4-hour cut of Black Panther," that's not a director's cut. That's literally all the footage we have. This happens with almost every movie begins
all
like
of the usable footage, and they were going to edit the movie out of that. There was no intent to release all of that footage.
Most of the time, most movies begin that way. I've heard actually a couple of editors. The commentary track to Wishmaster includes the director had been an editor, and one of the things he was talking about is I don't do that. I actually try to assemble the movie with as little as possible, and then ask, what do I need to add?
Okay.
Which is another way to do it. Almost no one does that. Usually you take all the footage and you just throw it all together, and then you realize it sucks, and then you cut out all the things you don't need, and then finally you have a movie.
You talk to any documentary filmmaker, it's even worse.
Oh, it's like, you have thousands of hours.
We have thousands and thousands of hours. We put together the first cut, and it was like literally 12 hours long, and they have to make a 90-minute film out of that. So
it boggles the mind any documentary gets made. It just seems like such a huge task. So The Keep ended up being cut down to about 2 hours, and then they apparently had some really bad test screenings, and they cut it down to about 90 minutes. Michael Mann was not happy.
Maybe the 2-hour cut would have made sense. I doubt it would have been good.
That's the thing. The premise is really airballed a lot. And what's interesting is when you think about, okay, so we cut another half hour out of this movie. This is what you left? There's a shot at the beginning. The movie begins with Nazis rolling into this town in Romania. And, you know, I understand you want to like build some scale, build some suspense. The Nazis are rolling into town. What's happening? So you're not just going to do that in one shot. There's a shot like from like through the windshield that looks like they're filming it in slow motion, and they let it go for like a minute, and I'm just like, this is what you kept.
This is their I'm William Friedkin making a sorcerer moment. You know, they're clearly trying to do something very adult with The Keep, and they're trying to bring up really like adult moral quandaries, and like making your Nazis the protagonists is already kind of confrontational. So Michael Mann is trying to bite off something, but all he has is exploitation movie material. A monster stalking around a castle, killing people, right?
Well, and yet he films it like it's like super moody, brilliant.
And the thing that really kind of pushes this into place and also pushes the movie way, way down is the score by Tangerine Dream.
Oh my God. Okay, I love a good Tangerine Dream score. There was this time, particularly in the early 80s, when people like Tangerine Dream and Vangelis were producing these really moody...
like synthwave kind of soundtracks.
Yeah, Blade Runner is probably the one that's best remembered today.
I would say Legend, but okay.
Well...
Both Ridley Scott films.
And that gave these films a very particular aesthetic that, frankly... didn't fit a lot of the time. Like, I really like the movie Lady Hawk. The score is a bizarre choice for Lady Hawk. Lady Hawk is this medieval action-adventure thing, and I like it a lot, but yeah, the score is completely out of place. And here I
like when Toto did the music for Dune. It works there, too.
But, like, yeah, here it's just atonal. Like, it feels like it's off key the whole time. Not literally. It just feels like it's off the key of the movie.
It's screeching at the characters. The characters are speaking. It's still going on. And the movie is trying to insist this is a dream state. And we need something more solid. Otherwise, we're just going to fall asleep during your dream state movie.
I'm going to defend one part of this movie. The production design is great. Like, I really like the actual look of the locations and the keep itself, and Michael Mann gets a lot of it. Clearly they built a lot of it. Like the sets are really big and empty and creepy. It feels like the island of Cthulhu.
Yeah,
like that's where you've ended. Like, it really does feel like a terrifying place to be.
Inside the keep, there's this one gigantic central chamber that's really cool, and when it sort of sinks away, it's really cool. But there's also all these shots of just sort of random hallways that clearly look like sets.
Yeah, some of them do. But like when they're really pushing it.
We don't get a good sense of geography, which might be intentional, because I know if you've read some of those Lovecraft stories, like The Call of Cthulhu, there's a lot of descriptions of like impossible angles and geographies that the mind can't quite understand. Or just bad filmmaking. You know, you can't really tell what's really going on.
The line is thin. Yeah. I think The Keep captures that better, I think, than any Lovecraftian movie. So there's that. I also miss this age of fantasy horror filmmaking in which everything was smoky all the time. Remember that? Like back in the 80s?
Thanks, Tony Scott.
There was mist fucking everywhere in every scene, even if it made no sense. And it really was cool.
There was a trend in photography that I just missed. In order to add depth to a scene, the photographers would add smoke, and it would kind of obscure the background, but it would make sure the human eye could sort of see how deep the camera was looking. It actually added a lot of dimension, and I think when in digital filmmaking they're trying to clean that up as much as possible and make everything really clear. The problem with that is there's so much detail, the eye isn't being drawn anywhere. You're just sort of absorbing this big chunk of visual noise that it's really hard to really focus on. Cameras and digital effects can now occupy all of that space and add so much detail to all that space. It's really, really impressive artistically from a technical standpoint, but artistically it suffers. And
you lose a moodiness. There's a moodiness.
And the filmmakers are so high on the fact that they can add so much detail that they're losing sight of the fact that the human eye is looking at a flat plane and needs to focus on a certain image within the frame. And a lot of filmmakers aren't skilled enough to use visual markers to draw the eye to a certain part of the frame. Like something like using like lines of light or certain angles to make sure we're looking at a certain corner, and we need to be looking at that because that's the important information in the frame. I feel like in something like The Keep, or just in older photography in general, they were doing that a lot more. They were making sure that, because they had to sort of lock it down, and make sure that the camera was capturing that and not sort of adding detail in post. And yeah, that sort of smooky moodiness. Smooky nudiness. Smooky is the word I'm going to use to describe that. Spooky moodiness, if I want to use actual English words. Is really kind of adding that dimension that you're talking about.
Yeah. So I think you could watch The Keep and you could pick up some interesting stylistic content, some really gorgeous shots.
Just enjoy the photography.
Yeah. I would not recommend turning on the sound because it's not good. It's just really bad. I get why Michael Mann doesn't want this out there because it's clearly not what anyone would have wanted it to turn into.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a complete wash just because there's some cool technical elements, but it's really quite boring.
Well, you need to turn off the sound or turn on the Swedish language track and then add some like Stravinsky underneath and pretend that you're watching, Ingmar Bergman losing his mind. That's what you need to do with The Keep.
Yeah, is there anything else to say about it?
Not really.
It's not that eventful a movie. It's not like full of amazing weird stuff where you can describe it and just go on and on. It's a lot of it is just people walking in hallways.
It's bad decisions boringly set forth, not crazily set forth. So
yeah. It's not good.
No, I was just dull, dimwit kind of a movie.
Yeah.
There was a good version of this, which was made in the 1950s that we paired it with.
Before we get to the film that we decided to pair it with, we once again put forth on Facebook a challenge to see if anyone could predict what we were going to pick. No one guessed the film we were going to pick because I think it's an older film. I think people don't talk about it anymore, which is why I'm really glad we can share it with you, and hopefully you'll discover it for yourself now. But there were a lot of really good suggestions, and so let's talk about some of the better ones. Here's one from Ryan, who suggested Ken Russell's The Devils.
That would have been a good one.
It's a great movie. It's really messed up.
I wish we could find it.
I think it finally got released on Shudder, didn't it?
It still wasn't the final. Like they said, we finally have the final cut, and there was kind of a scandal. It's like, no, this isn't it. This isn't the final cut. We still need more of the sexy stuff. Fellow
Schmoedown competitor Tim Franco suggested Prince of Darkness, which is actually a really good suggestion.
It's a good suggestion, but we wanted to pair it with a good movie.
Okay, this is why I really like Prince of Darkness. He does not.
Oh, I like Prince of Darkness, but it's not good. Yeah, it's the same sort of thing. The devil is sort of trapped inside this edifice, and in the case of Prince of Darkness, it's a giant cooler full of NyQuil.
Here's Eric Cooper suggested The Gate, which is a really fun movie. It's a movie about a bunch of kids who accidentally open a portal to hell in their backyard, and then their house becomes possessed by demons, and it's a hoot. It's of the 80s kid-centric horror genre.
It's one of the spookier ones.
It's one of the creepier ones. It'll actually give you nightmares, but it's like the Monster Squad, the Lost Boys.
It's not
kind
playful.
Of thing.
It's like a legit horror.
It's a legit horror movie, just aimed at younger audiences, and it's really good. It's not quite fitting it's so tonally different from The Keep. It really don't make a great conversation, but
we can pair The Gate with something. I'm sure we'll find something we can pair The Gate with.
That's really
because I'd love
fun
to talk about The Gate.
Let's see what we got here. Julia recommended Hellraiser 2. Good choice.
Also, that's one of my favorite slasher movies.
In fact, we got another one for Hellraiser as well, although I'm not seeing it in front of me. Eric Cooper also said Phantasm, which is another good idea. Sam Shearer suggested The Seventh Seal, which actually I can kind of see that. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
This guy knows what we're trying to do here.
Jason,
but actually, what's a better film about characters trying to sort of confront evil might be Hour of the Wolf.
Oh,
if you're looking for a Bergman film that would go well with The Keep.
Greg suggested pair it with Michael Mann's next movie, Manhunter, which I love, but I think we can find a different thing to do with that. Let's see. Rasika recommended Hellraiser 1, also great. Paul Watkins suggested Dog Soldiers, which is also
the werewolf
about
film,
but it's about soldiers fighting the supernatural, and I can see how that works. Let's see. Leon McIntosh suggested Nightbreed, which I love, but it's totally got a different vibe.
Also, You know what? I finally saw, I think we mentioned this. I finally saw that director's cut of Nightbreed, the one that everybody had been waiting like literally decades to see, and it's not as good as the shorter cut.
There's like two things.
There's two things that are cleared up, but it doesn't necessarily make it a better film.
There's two things I want to take from that director's cut of Nightbreed, because Nightbreed is actually one of my favorite movies. It's not one of the best movies I've ever seen, but I saw it at a formative time and I love it.
Yeah.
There's two things I want to take from it. I want to take the ending that actually includes Anne Bobby, the protagonist's girlfriend, and actually keeps her in the story. I want to take that part and give her like more of an arc, because I feel like the movie kind of abandons her at the end. And I want to take all of those shots of the really cool monsters that were just kind of the exposition shots. I want to put them back in. I don't know why they cut those in the first place. Those things were cool. Everything else, the movie is fine. I don't think you need it. I think it's a good movie.
There's a scene where the movie comes to a dead halt just so Anne Bobby can sing Johnny Get Angry.
The entire song. Of it. Yeah, we don't need that.
We don't need that.
We don't need that
we
at all.
Don't need Johnny. First of all, we don't need Johnny Get Angry. That's a terrible song.
But the film that we picked is a classic British horror film directed by the great Jacques Tourneur. It is generally considered to be one of the great classic horror movies. Martin Scorsese put it on his list of the scariest movies of all time.
One of the best of the 50s, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. The 50s was not a great year overall for the horror genre, or great decade overall. There was good stuff, but not amazing.
The Universal monster wave had kind of died down during the 1950s.
And we're in this very nuclear horror, this Godzilla, there were a lot of bugs everywhere.
Yeah, there were a lot of giant monsters and that sort of thing. And yeah, the 1950s is just kind of a dark
There's
time
some really
for
great
horror.
Stuff in there, but it wasn't like a huge glut of great horror movies. But Night of the Demon is one of them.
Yes.
Night of the Demon is a very creepy, very intelligent horror movie that is about a psychologist played by Dana Andrews.
And a skeptic. Like
He's a scientist.
Aggressively open-minded skeptic.
Who, while he is visiting England for a conference to help debunk beliefs in the paranormal, runs afoul of a cult leader who
looks like a cult leader.
Yes, he does. He's even got like
this Mephistophelian goatee. Yeah.
And he is cursed, and the curse starts building, and he's going to die on the 28th, which is 3 days away. And he's like, I don't believe that. But as weirder things keep happening to him, his skepticism is challenged, and he starts finally like, oh God, maybe this is actually real.
But he's skeptical like
to the end.
Right to the end. Like he's
with an hour to go.
It's like, no, this is not going to happen. Why is there a demon there? You know, it's
He's constantly rationalizing every supernatural thing that happens. But we, as the audience, know that this is a movie, so there probably is something real.
And it's established right away that the demon is real.
Well, and here's the thing. Like The Keep, which is another reason why I wanted to do this, Night of the Demon had a troubled production as well, with the producer really at odds with Jacques Tourneur, and they added, at the beginning and the end of the movie, against Jacques Tourneur's wishes, and the wishes of the writer, who I believe said that if he saw the producer, like if the producer showed up on his lawn, he'd kill him. They added shots of the demon at the beginning and the end of the movie.
Yep.
Now, Jacques, the producer said that he thought that if the audience knew there was actually a demon, that would build up the suspense. But, of course, it sacrifices the mystery, and the entire point is skepticism. Is this real or is it not? It's still effective. It still works, but it works on a different level than it was intended, and that's frustrating. Because maybe it's real, maybe it's not, really would have amplified the entire theme of the movie.
Look, those visuals of the demon are some of the best in the movie, is the problem.
Oh.
I think the demon looks amazing. I think it taps it. The close-ups are kind of goofy because it's like these big kind of cartoony eyes.
That's my thing. When he's really far in the distance, it's kind of cool, but the closer it gets, the more it looks like a puppet.
Well, and it looks like it's breaking out of silent films. Like, it has this kind of weird classical look to it. It's got these big sharp wings. Comes like... It's preceded by a flock of bats, and then this big demon kind of comes in, and it looks really nightmarish. And because the victims of the demon are alone, there's still a level of ambiguity.
but we're seeing it though. We're seeing it really vividly, and that's a sort of thing that I think you really can't get past. Now that said, I still think it's really, really good. It opens with this guy like driving through the British countryside, knocking on the door of a huge mansion, saying, "I believe in the curse. Take the curse away." And the guy's like, "Yeah, I'll see what I can do,
I guess
buddy.
I can do that."
And then the guy just goes home and he sees the demon and he crashes his car into a lamppost and he gets electrocuted and dies. So our hero shows up and the person he was coming there to see is dead, a la the third man.
Dana Andrews.
Yes, Dana Andrews plays the hero. He teams up with the victim's niece, played by Peggy Cummins, who is an actor I'm not super familiar with, but she's really good in this.
Yeah.
I like her a lot. And
she's not skeptical. Like, no. She's 100% on board with all of this.
But what's cool is that she actually, like, bridges the gap. She has studied psychology, she's a teacher, and she believes in this stuff.
Yeah.
So we can have a conversation with her. But when he has a conversation with Dr. Julian Carswell, the bad guy, played by Niall McGuinness, it's all just, I believe in the devil and witchcraft and sorcery and curses, and he cannot accept it. There's this great bit. He's trying to do all the research that the victim did in order to figure out how he died. And there is an ancient tome that only Carswell has. And he wants to read it. So he goes to Carswell's estate. And he goes there, and you're expecting it to be like another spooky British thing. He's holding a giant Halloween party for kids, and he's dressed as a clown and doing stage magic. And it's really unexpected, and it's a totally different tone than you'd ever think. And it's actually really humanizing for a bit, because you think, maybe he's not so bad?
And you know, he's dressed as a clown. You know, instantly we think, oh gosh, creepy clown. No, this was before John Wayne Gacy. All right,
yeah, this is before clowns were creepy. I mean, they're always kind of creepy, but this is before they were like culturally codified as creepy.
Used as creep factor. He's a clown. He's a friendly dude.
Like Bozo the Clown was a hit on television. Like, it was a thing.
So yeah, he shows up in the clown makeup, and we immediately, as modern audiences, go, oh gosh, scary clown. But no, he's actually, he looks okay.
Yeah, Carswell's mom.
He looks like somebody who would play with kids. Yeah,
it's actually kind of nice, and they continue to have this conversation. And Carswell's like, "You still don't believe me?" And then he finally he like flutters his eyes for a minute and is like, "It's done." And the guy's like, "What are you talking about?" And there's a huge, gigantic windstorm that just kicks up out of nowhere. This is not the kind of thing you can. It's
like in The Omen.
Yeah, this isn't pulling a rabbit out of a hat. This is like he just all of a sudden predicted a catastrophic shift in the weather. I believe that shit now.
Yeah. Well, and there's a scene where Dana Andrews has to sneak into his mansion at night. And he's sneaking around in the dark rooms. And he runs afoul of Sergio. Where are you,
Sergio the cat. Yeah, my cat.
There's a sweet little Russian blue kitty just sort of stalking around in the cat.
Looks just like Sergio.
Looks just like your cat, Sergio.
Sergio's looking at us expectantly like, does this mean I get treats? And I'm like, I don't know.
I asked you if you watched this with Sergio, because I don't want Sergio to get any ideas.
Oh, he saw it.
Okay, so the cat turns into a giant leopard monster that attacks him.
Which is very
and he fights and breaks across his arms and shreds his clothes, and then what's his name? Carswell opens the door. The lights turn on, and he looks at the cat, and it's just a regular cat again.
And he just says, "Oh, you shouldn't have woken him."
Well, and he says, "You shouldn't have woken." It was like that thing was attacking me, and he even says, "Yep, just a minor demon." It's like. I use it to protect my thing. He's like a guard cat. It's like, he was guarding. It's like, oh, you didn't have to guard him from getting that. I would have shared this book with him. It's like, shame on you, demon cat. Okay, so he's saying it's a demon cat. Like, saying right to this guy it's a demon cat. And he just was attacked by a cougar, and his clothes are shredded, and he's like, well, I'm still not sure I believe you. Okay. Skepticism can only go so far, dude.
He's so fucking stubborn, and this is the kind of clever, kind of insidiousness about this, because this is another movie in which they are talking very forthrightly about atheism early on.
Yeah,
you know, this was something that really wasn't a common conversation in cinema.
You didn't hear the word atheist a lot in early cinema.
Yeah, and it is about a guy who learns to believe, and the movie has attitudes about that, and it really wants him to. At the end of that scene. Carswell's just like, well, let me see you to the door. Yeah. And the guy's just like, no, I'll leave the way I came. It's like through the woods, but they're haunted. And he's just like, I'll be fine. And he walks through the woods, and the demon appears, and he runs through the woods, and he gets to the car, and he's just like, I still don't believe. I'm like, how do you not believe?
So, we're all stuck in our beliefs.
Yeah.
No matter what we believe in, we're kind of stuck in them.
This is something that H.P. Lovecraft did. I'm not sure how familiar every one of our listeners is with Howard Phillips Lovecraft. Howard Phillips Lovecraft was one of those brilliant artists who was underappreciated in their time, but then became enormously influential. He wrote a ton of short stories. I think only one proper novella.
Yeah.
And
the Lurker at the Threshold, I think, is his one kind of book.
The Case of Charles Dexter Ward was also that long.
Oh,
as
okay.
well. He wrote quite a bit, and he was very famous for creating the Cthulhu mythos, which is this sort of big, broad, spanning otherworldly mythology about ancient gods who ruled the universe before humanity came along. There's a lot of stories are interconnected in ways that no one was really doing at the time.
Well, there's a hierarchy of gods that all exist in all of his stories.
But Lovecraft created basically an extended universe of horror, which was a very novel idea at the time.
But he created a pantheon of gods, himself being a staunch atheist, and the whole point of the gods in his stories, the gods in his stories were worshipped by humanity, and they were like unleashed or trapped by humanity, but they were indifferent to humanity,
or outrightly malevolent.
Or they just humanity only existed to die by their hands. And they were so powerful that they just sort of would crush and lay waste to anything around it, whether there were humans there or not.
Yeah.
And it was that indifference that he was trying to really express through his pantheon.
But
they didn't have a personality. They were just the force of destruction that we were enslaved to.
So that kind of maniacal devotion is somewhat Lovecraftian, but also, and this is the thing that the Keep touches on and then gets rid of in a scene. Frequently, very frequently, the protagonists of Howard Phillips Lovecraft stories were intellectuals, they were scientists, they were historians, they were archaeologists, they were smart people.
Researchers of some sort.
There were people who, if they told you something, you would believe it was credible. And they don't believe in horror. They don't believe in demons. They don't believe in elder gods.
And when they see it, they almost unilaterally go insane.
But for most of the narrative, the audience is ahead of them. So here's this intelligent person. Nothing that they're saying is irrational. Every time they try to justify what they're going through as that's probably nothing, normally they'd be right. But we know that they're not, and it creates this unbearable suspense of when are they going to catch up to us?
Well, Lovecraft's stories are all kind of in epistolary format, where they're written as letters recounting something that had already happened. So it's usually
maybe not literally letters, but they have that vague.
It's a story told by somebody in an insane asylum saying, "Let me tell you how I went insane," which is kind of sensationalistic in a way, but which I love. But also kind of shows you that this is going to end badly for the protagonist.
To be clear, this was not based on a Lovecraft story. It was written by Montague Rhodes James, but the movie has that quality, and so does The Keep. So when you're watching Night of the Demon, you're just waiting for Dana Andrews to get it to fucking together. Get it together, Dana! And they do a lot of these things. They try to and it's interesting to see how they scientifically try to deal with all this stuff. And they do a seance with a very, very good medium. And he knows this, these are always faked. And you know what? Yes, that's true. But they run that base. They cover that base. They put a guy who has been accused of murder, but it might have been the demon, under hypnosis, and the hypnosis proves that he did indeed do it. It all builds to an ending, which I'm not going to ruin for you, but is insanely clever. It turns out that there is a way out of the curse, and it involves confronting Carswell. And it is just a really fun scene.
I'll say this. If you've seen
Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets.
Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, you know what they're getting at. You know where J.K. Rowling got that.
J.K. Rowling totally got a big part of Chamber of Secrets from Night of the Demon, and it works just as well. And it's another magical thing, and it's so fucking smart.
And I loved when Carsdale found it.
When he realized
when he realized what happened, when he found the thing, it's like, I found the thing. Good God! And you just he runs out in a blind panic. It's fantastic.
It's so cool. Night of the Demon is a movie that I recommend everyone watch because it is smart, it is interesting, it's distinctive. There are things in it that I think maybe really young audiences might not respond to. There is a certain stodgy Britishness to some of it. There's a lot of exposition and the audience is way ahead of it. And I want to prepare you for that.
Okay.
That is not a bug, that's a feature.
Yeah.
That's the point. The point is these are intelligent, middle-aged people who are...
It's gripping enough that I think even somebody who's not used to this sort of pace would still be intrigued.
But it's not sensationalist. And I think this is probably another thing that Jacques Tourneur probably was upset about by adding that demon at the beginning, is it creates the idea that this is a sensationalist narrative.
That is a monster movie.
Yeah.
It's not a monster movie.
It's not.
It's about the investigation.
Jacques Tourneur also directed one of the best early horror movies, Cat People.
Cat People is great.
Cat People is super cool, and Cat People was really ahead of its time in terms of a lot of sexual politics as well.
Cat People famously kind of codified what is now just a truism of monster movies. The monster is scarier the less you see it.
Cat People also, I think it was Cat People, invented the trope called the Luton bus.
The Luton bus.
Are you familiar with the Luton bus?
I'm probably familiar with the trope. Okay, I don't know that term,
If you've ever seen a horror movie in which they build up the suspense, oh God, what's going to happen to the protagonist? They're walking into a room, there might be someone behind them, and then, oh, it's just a bus. A bus just drove by.
Oh, that's...
Like we're building up to a big shock, and then like a cat jumps at you, or it's a bus.
A bus to Luton.
That was Luton produced it. Val Luton produced it.
Oh, Val Luton.
And it's called a Luton bus.
Okay.
So that horror fake out, that was invented by Jacques Tourneur, or at least it was codified by.
I didn't know Val Luton laid claim to that. That was not a term I knew.
It's such an inherent part of the genre. Sometimes when we look back at the history of cinema, we realize that something had to be invented that just seems so obvious now. Like, you think about, like, oh, that trope. Someone had to do that first.
There's a really great documentary series on, it might still be on Netflix, called just The Story of Film, and it tracks down the origins of a lot of stuff we totally take for granted.
Yeah.
And the earlier ones are really interesting, like looking at a building and then having a hard edit to an interior of the building where the camera's like one's looking in the window and the other one's looking out the exact same window.
Yeah.
It's like that's something that seems just so elementary to us now. That's just film language. But somebody had to invent that.
Yeah.
And they found this like really obscure French short about firemen that did it for the first time. And it's like this is the pioneer. This is how it evolved.
It's really fascinating. Yeah, again, I always encourage you, study classic cinema because you're going to find really cool stuff.
Yeah.
So Night of the Demon was this real fast before we end. It was re-edited in America. It was cut down, not unlike The Keep. Didn't ruin the movie, but they cut a lot of Night of the Demon down, and then they released it in America as Curse of the Demon. Now these are usually both available on the same DVD set.
You can watch both cuts.
Curse of the Demon is shorter. It's still good. I saw Curse of the Demon a long time ago, and it was still good and was still very effective.
It just has less meat on it.
It has less meat on it, a little less exposition. Really, you could watch both and be fine.
That was the only cut I saw for a while.
Yeah.
And I saw it when I was younger, and then I revisited in my 20s. Like, oh, this is a better movie than I remember.
Yeah. If you only have a chance to see Curse of the Demon, still see it. It's still really, really good. But at some point, you should also see Night of the Demon because it really fleshes out the intelligent aspects of the storyline all the more. They cut out all the stuff that made it smart.
More or less.
Well, not all of it, but they cut out a lot of it, and it's a shame. But yeah, they're both currently available, and you should definitely check them out.
And I still think the shots of the demon are scary, even if the director or the writer didn't want them.
I wonder, though...
I think it's still... It doesn't work in the same way that the director or the writer wanted, but I think it still works on a level, and I think it actually does add a level of terror. I know that which is sensationalistic, but I think it adds that level to it, which is appreciated.
I like that we talked about The Keep, which apparently, and I can't say for certain because I never saw Michael Mann's cut, was a better movie that got turned to crap. We talked about Night of the Demon, which got cut and changed and shots were added, but it's still pretty good. And we also managed to talk about Nightbreed. Because Nightbreed, and thank you for someone who suggested it, it's one where actually the producer's cut is mostly better.
Yeah.
It can happen.
The director doesn't always know what they're doing. It's okay. Yeah, even good directors need to be reined in and re-edited. Ask Thelma Schoonmaker sometime.
Kind of fell through Clive Barker's fingers on that one. I still think that's really, really great, though.
I love Clive Barker. The films he directs are the greatest.
He's not the
movies.
best director ever. He just has a great vision.
Even Hellraiser, those hooks are going into rubber. Those don't look like real skin.
The acting is actually really bad in a lot of it. Like, all the stuff with the daughter and her boyfriend is almost interminable.
Why is the boyfriend in there? Kill him off early.
I digress. Anyway,
and I love Clive Barker. I really love Clive Barker.
Night of the Demon is great. You should check it out. The Keep, if it's a curiosity factor, if you're a huge Michael Mann fan and you want to see him try to do something totally outside of his wheelhouse, might be worth checking out, but you will probably be bored.
Yeah.
Next week, we're going to do something a bit more broad and brassy and fun.
We're gonna go back to the bad you know.
That's right. We are going to talk about bad superhero movies, or at least notorious superhero movies. And we're going to have, as our poll on the Schmoville Facebook page, Schmoville ! Sign up if you haven't already. Every Sunday we release the poll. It's usually decided pretty quickly. Like by the end of Sunday, it's pretty clear who wins. So be on it. We're going to have nothing but superhero movies. Or at least comic book adaptations. So we have one Marvel movie, one DC movie, and one Image Comics movie.
Yay!
Your options are Howard the Duck.
One Image Comics movies. That cinematic tentpole. All those movies based on Image Comics.
Shut up. Anyway, we've got Howard the Duck.
Howard the Duck.
The notorious George Lucas Marvel Comics adaptation, which is about a guy named Howard who is a duck.
I haven't seen this for many years.
Oh, I saw it.
And if you guys choose this, I'm scared.
We're also from the DC universe. We might review, if you vote for it, Green Lantern.
From 2011, if I recall.
One of many Ryan Reynolds movies that were like where he tried to do a comic book movie and it did not work out. Or your other option is Spawn, the adaptation of Spawn, about a vagabond hell guy who fights Martin Sheen and John Leguizamo.
It was the modern comic book adaptation of Faust. There's a million of those.
And Spawn the comic was fun. I actually got nothing against any of these comics, but the movies didn't turn out good. At the very least, they famously didn't turn out good.
The Howard the Duck comics are an effective send up of comic book lore.
Yeah, and politics
and a lot of politics and stuff. Yeah, they're actually really smart. The movie, not so much.
Yeah, Spawn. Great concept, not necessarily always a great execution, but they were really moody and very creepy and cool and gorgeously illustrated. And Green Lantern is bizarre,
it's a strange idea, which I have no idea how it has stayed in the consciousness. How did that ever catch on?
Having read the comics, I can tell you there's actually a lot of really amazing things about Green Lantern. It doesn't surprise me in the slightest that they didn't translate very well to the screen, especially in that film.
It's called Green Lantern. How did they do that? They named it after camping equipment. How did they do that?
I can explain all of that to you if you pick Green Lantern. So that's the poll that's currently available. We have time for some letters, so let's read some letters.
Let's read some letters. We get letters.
You can email us, criticallyacclaimedfans@gmail.com. With your questions, concerns, critiques. Do you want to debate us on something? Do you want a recommendation of something? Do you just wonder how the industry works? Just ask us, and we'll tell you. So what have we got, Whitney?
Here's a question about VHS.
Okay.
That's the name of the letter. Dear a giant wolf man, Bibbs, and Motormouth Seibold. Oh, God. I guess I'm officially a hipster. Yeah, because you're making references to our old podcast, so that definitely makes you a hipster. Along with my current vinyl collection and a new appreciation for cassette tapes, rekindled after receiving Over the Garden Wall Poetry Oboe Replica mixtape from Mondo. That's a good hipster phrase. My new nostalgia is the physical media of my childhood, VHS. A recent popular Twitter post just added fuel to my growing desire to keep on collecting. A Twitter post compared the recent Disney remaster of Cinderella, I remember seeing this, to the VHS tape, showing that they scrubbed the image so clean that lines and detail were lost, especially disastrous because animated films like Cinderella and Robin Hood, Pinocchio, Sword in the Stone, for instance, were shot on film. While I appreciate an upgraded Blu-ray like the next guy, something about having a VHS, even with lower picture quality, has its advantages. Hell, even some types of films benefit from being played on tape. 70s and 80s kung fu, horror films, Ray Harryhausen films, the original Star Wars pre-special edition. So my question is this: what films do you think would be worth owning on VHS? From obvious fun watches to hidden gems like Robot Jocks, Krull, Repo Man, and Ice Pirates. Give me some advice as I comb through eBay and Goodwill stores the world over. From a Patreon member who loves Bibbs.
Oh, thanks, man.
Anthony.
Thanks, Anthony. Okay, for a couple of things here. If you haven't seen that Twitter thread, I think there's been a couple articles about it as well.
Yeah.
Disney's constantly trying to keep all of their classic films sort of
Updated,
contemporary,
yeah.
and that involves remastering them a lot. But one of the things that they have done in order to try to meet current visual ideas of animation is that they've been scrubbing them so clean that they have lost detail.
Yeah.
And that is bullshit.
Well, not only are they're not just scrubbing the image and brightening the colors. In some cases, they've actually been going in and finding the character animation, from the original masters. Either from film or from an earlier video, and they have been making CGI approximated composites that they've been essentially remaking the movie.
Yeah.
That they're superimposing the original character animation over. So what they're trying to do is come up with sort of the house aesthetic, like a master aesthetic that all of their films can look like. So they all look markedly, quote, Disney, which means they're scrubbing away any kind of artistry and handmade feel to it, as if some human had made it, and trying to make it more like a corporate product. I understand this is Disney, and the corporate product is what they do, but in altering their old product to look like that is... It's a violation, is what it is.
Well, here's the thing. It's their product. Technically,
they can do whatever they want with it. I understand that.
I'm making that allowance. I'm just going to say that right now. If you're saying, oh, well, it's their thing, they can do what they want. Or if you're even just say, I don't personally care, that's okay. Both of those things may be true. But it is our responsibility as people who care about that, people who care about the medium, and people who try to contribute to that conversation and try to educate people on a regular, daily, or at least weekly basis, to prioritize that and to take that position and just say that is the wrong way to do this. You are denying not only people the actual history of a thing, but you are erasing a lot of that artistry. And I see that, and other people do that too. I mean, it's hard to see the original version of Star Wars. I don't care if George Lucas prefers the new version. The other ones existed.
Yeah.
And they should be at least available in some form. So hang on to your VHSs of Star Wars. Definitely. The Ewok movies is another one. They're just pretending those don't exist. You can say they're not good all you want. That's subjective. The point is they exist. So hang on to your VHSs if you have them.
Trying to rewrite that history is it's wrong. It's wrong. Just hang on to it because you did it.
But the second point of that email is the VHS aesthetic. And different types of formats have different aesthetics. They're going to have a certain particular way about them. You see a 35 millimeter film in a theater, it has a different, almost tangible quality. A VHS, particularly one that you've watched a lot, has certain particular degrading aspects to it, and it makes it feel like you really kind of worked for something and kind of found it.
Here's something that's really driving me nuts. Newer Blu-rays and newer Blu-ray players, especially ones that are kind of wired into video game systems, have access to the internet. So you can put in a Blu-ray and it will show you new previews that are up to date.
Yeah,
they keep
weird, right?
updating it. An old VHS tape might have some previews for other films, and those particular previews ahead of a certain film, I became kind of attached to, and it became kind of a whole feature unto itself when I watched a lot of my old tapes.
Yeah, you would always watch those previews.
I have seen the preview for Excessive Force 2, Force on Force, ahead of a movie I'm not going to say because I'm embarrassed that I own it. Many, many times.
Sure.
Needless to say, it's the type of film that would advertise Excessive Force 2, Force on Force. And yeah, it became sort of part. So I'm really familiar with. You become really familiar with those previews, those particular ones.
So for me, and listen, and again, this was the way you had to see films a lot of the time, and we were happy to have it.
Yeah.
So like I'm used to seeing classic movies like that. You know, like I watched Strangers on a Train in that kind of degraded, seen it a million times format, and it was still a great movie. It was pan and scan, which I always thought was frustrating, but still, it was still great. I think the VHS aesthetic works particularly well for a sort of B-movie canon group, grindhouse kind of feature where it just feels like, you know, this movie kind of got dumped somewhere. But that makes discovering it all the more, you know, wonderful. So if you ever get to see a VHS of The Eliminators, that's probably the best way to do it.
See Eliminators on VHS.
And The Eliminators is a good-looking movie. There's actually a Blu-ray of it out there. It's fun. If you haven't seen The Eliminators, it's basically...
It's just Eliminators. There's no V. It's just... Yeah.
Eliminators is Denise Crosby from Star Trek teaming up with not Indiana Jones and not the Terminator to travel back in time and fight ninjas and stuff.
And a ninja.
Oh, yeah. And it's also...
It's Denise Crosby.
Yeah.
It's Indiana Jones knockoff. It's a ninja, and it's the Mandroid, who is part tank.
Yes.
Teaming up to fight a villain with a time machine.
Yes.
And it's as good as you think.
It is as good as it sounds. And it sounds good, doesn't it?
Yep.
It's pretty fun.
There are some movies that just sort of benefit from the format, even if they're made in the modern era. The remake of The Ring.
Oh, you should probably see that on VHS.
A piece of VHS technology is very central to the plot of that movie, and when it's done, you're going to be afraid to touch your VCR.
There you go.
David Cronenberg's Videodrome. If you can see that on Betamax. See David Cronenberg's Videodrome on Betamax.
If you can.
It will enhance the experience. There's also a great Criterion Blu-ray. You can watch
also,
that
and I think it's also worth noting before we move on, that there are a lot of films that were made available on formats like VHS or Laserdisc even, or Betamax, that were never released in other formats. A lot of them have somehow found their way onto digital streaming services, but a lot of them haven't. And so you can find things on VHS, you can find things on Laserdisc if you happen to have a player that still works, and good luck to you. That, you know, like I used to have a very respectable only on Laserdisc collection that would include things like the Gene Kelly Three Musketeers, which had never been released on home video, or I had there was a Laserdisc compilation of Martin Scorsese's early college short films.
Wow,
that was on Laserdisc. That was a cool Laserdisc to own. You know, there was stuff like that. You couldn't get any other way.
I had a bootleg VHS that I purchased via eBay when you could still sell bootleg VHSs on eBay. That was David Lynch's early short films.
Oh, yeah.
Which weren't available for the longest time.
Yeah, they finally put them out on DVD eventually.
Yeah, they put them out on DVD. Like, David Lynch had his own company for a while because he still owned the rights to those.
Yeah.
And that's why you couldn't find them anywhere. He's like, I'm not going to sell Eraserhead. This one's mine. And so, yeah, you couldn't find Eraserhead in a lot of formats. Then he finally put it out himself. Do you remember the big, huge box of Eraserhead?
Yeah, I was working at Laser Blazer in Los Angeles with Lon Harris from Screen Junkies and the Schmodown.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we worked together when that thing came out. It was a good set.
I shelled out $40 for that DVD.
Who didn't?
Yeah, it was. I was happy to have it. Now, of course, I have the Criterion Blu-ray. Now it's pretty common. You can just find it on Filmstruck, and as well as all those old shorts. But yeah, for a while those were only available on Laserdisc.
Okay, let's read another letter. Here's one from Ryan.
Hi, Ryan.
Hello, Bibbs and Whitney. I hope this finds you well. I had a question for you guys based on something I've noticed in your reviews that I've had a hard time finding a consistent way to reconcile. How do you draw the line about when you are going to take a movie seriously or not? In a recent review of an Adam Sandler Netflix movie, you discussed at length what happens in it and described its comedy as, quote, mean, in quotes, because you seem to be saying that was a bad thing for the film. Seemingly taking seriously the notion that what happens in this film is meant to port onto our real-world experience. But when discussing Hudson Hawk, you discussed how patently ridiculous it was and that it was not meant to be taken seriously considered. I grant that I haven't seen the specific Adam Sandler movie, and I'm not writing to defend it. It's probably bad. But I've never seen a traditional, quote, Adam Sandler movie that was not patently ridiculous or meant in any way to be treated seriously. So why the difference? Why care about the meanness if it's not meant in a serious way? How do you decide when to care or not about things that break down when they're in a world we're familiar with? Thank you guys for your thoughts. Love the show, and I'm glad there was a perspective like yours on the Schmoes feed. Well, first off, thank you for that, and that is a great question.
It is a great question.
I have thoughts on this, but I'm curious what yours are.
We once got a letter a while back about the art of dramaturgy, and I think they were asking about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, a film that you and I didn't love as much as a lot of people. Like, we saw a lot of positive things in it.
I think we both respected it.
We all respected it. And
really blow us away.
And our listener had written in saying, well, I was blown away just because I was so fond of the characters, and I didn't care sort of that the plot was kind of meandery and really sloppy. And dramaturgically, I think our response was along the lines of when we're sitting down in this film and we see the aesthetic of it and the pacing of it and the way they're setting up all of the characters, we are meant to expect it to resemble a film in a certain way, and the plot needs to function in a certain way. And when it doesn't do that, we become disappointed, because it is clearly not doing what it at the outset was setting out to do.
I call it the contract with the audience. The movie tells you what it is at the beginning, and if it betrays that, it might still work. Psycho betrays that.
Sometimes it'll play with your expectations in a really intriguing way.
Other times it simply doesn't fulfill its end of the bargain and doesn't become what it tells you it wants to be.
Sometimes it violates it in a really bracing, shocking way. Have you seen Takashi Miike's Audition, for instance?
And sometimes we can misinterpret that, and we revisit a movie and we realize it was working on a level we didn't appreciate. This happens.
When you see a film's opening scene, that is its statement of purpose.
Or at least it's opening 10 minutes.
It's opening 10 minutes, like the first 5 or 10 minutes, where you can kind of establish right away who the characters are going to be, what the tone is going to be. That's the most important thing, what the tone is going to be, the plot, the pacing. These things are all being set up in a way that we as critics are trying to put into words, but as every single audience member is picking up on what's going to happen. We see something like Hudson Hawk, and the opening is big, broad music. We see Leonardo da Vinci trying to make gold in this big alchemical machine.
The voiceover guy who's telling you this historical stuff is, I believe, it's the same voiceover guy from the original Rocky and Bullwinkle cartoon.
It might be the same voice actor, but
that's my point.
They make some jokes, and you realize that the tone of this thing is going to be light and kind of silly and kind of slapsticky, and then we fast forward to the modern day, and everything's really kind of quickly paced. All of these things are being subtly established. That's what filmmaking is. And when we talk about an Adam Sandler film, things are being established that this is kind of a very typical universe that we're living in. These are suburban suburban homes that we're existing in. These are really kind of humane human people that are supposed to be interacting with each other in sort of a human way. And when those characters do something kind of cruel, it stands out all the more, because we can picture real humans doing that to other real humans, and we would bristle about that in real life. When Danny Aiello gets punched in the face in Hudson Hawk and it makes a boing sound effect, we understand that he's not quite human, and we can roll with that cruelty a little bit more. He doesn't feel pain in the same way. In Adam Sandler films, they feel pain, and that's kind of what we're sympathizing with.
I have a different thing I want to focus on here, and that's particularly the idea that, and I've run into this a lot when I review comedies lately, especially comedies that are, I would argue, mean-spirited. Films like Daddy's Home 2, for example, comes to mind. I got a lot of complaints on that. This guy doesn't like to think the comedy is good because it's mean-spirited. That's bad. Well, maybe. You might disagree on what's funny or not. There's a couple of different things I want to say about this. First off, on some level, we can talk about the nuts and bolts of a movie and talk about its construction and its mathematical properties and its component parts. But on some level, film critics are arbiters of taste.
Well, that's true.
It comes down to taste, and we are responsible for articulating our taste clearly. And if mean-spirited humor is not our particular taste, that's the way that is. And if you're looking for someone who likes that stuff, we're not your guys, and that's the way that is right now, and that's fine. There's a reason we have many, many critics. I don't like the idea that because they're all meant to be broad comedies, the implication of that is that they might all be kind of equal depending on your perspective, and I don't think it's necessarily true. The other thing is, there's an expression that people trot out, and I don't think everyone fully understands it, that all art is political. And that's true.
Yeah.
It's not true from a literal perspective in that all art is making a literal political statement and it needs to be disseminated on the news.
The statement means that every single piece of art you consume is a product of the society that produced it.
And every single piece of art either affirms something about the society that produces it or challenges it in some way. Every single piece of art is telling you in its own way what is or is not okay by sheer virtue of we exist, therefore this is okay. And if you reject that subconsciously, consciously, psychologically, ethically, and if the movie never confronts that, I think that's a fair critique. So, particularly in a lot of Adam Sandler comedies, and I don't mean to only single out Adam Sandler. There's a lot of comedians who do this, but Adam Sandler movies do this relatively consistently. In movies like Grown Ups 2 or The Do-Over, there is a lot of really negative behavior that is praised and congratulated. Yeah, that because this movie is silly, this is okay, and I'm not comfortable with praising the movie, especially considering the jokes aren't even that funny, because bullying isn't that funny to me, and that's a matter of taste. But I don't like the idea that it's okay because it's silly. What if it's not okay? What if it's never okay? And what if saying this is fine is maybe a negative thing we could be doing? That is a political element of these comedies that maybe you don't agree with me. Maybe you don't think it's important. Maybe you don't think it's important yet, and one day you'll consider this possibility. Maybe you think it's important now. Maybe you'll change your mind. I don't know. That's the take I have right now, and I encourage you to consider that when you consider movies that are, it's just light and dumb. Okay, but it exists, and it is telling people what is okay and what is not okay, and that's something to at least have a conversation about.
And if the film is truly light and dumb, like they're not putting any thought into it, you probably wouldn't be laughing at it, or laughing with it. Maybe you would be laughing at it. But I've seen movies that are just, there's not intelligence, there was no thought that was put into it. Those aren't fun to watch either.
Generally not. Like I said, we've said this before, it takes a lot of intelligence to make a dumb movie, because it still needs to be carefully constructed. Like Marx Brothers movies are dumb. They're brilliantly dumb. They're dumb in smart ways. Or even just, again, look at a movie we just talked about this week, Life of the Party. There's no meanness in that. There's like a couple of bullies and they only have a few scenes, and her ex-husband is a jerk. It's not a movie where the humor relies on putting anyone down. The humor actually relies on someone figuring out how to bring themselves up again. And that's that can be done. I'm not saying that's the only kind of comedy, but it's cool to know that it can be done.
In the week of the last Adam Sandler film, there's the bulk of the humor is made at the expense of people who are disadvantaged in some way or humiliated by the protagonists in some way. There's a lot of really horrible things that are made light of and not addressed in a clever way at all. Like the parents are constantly fighting and threatening to divorce, and the joke is that they do it so often that the kids just sort of ignore it. Like whenever they fight, it's just a shot of the kids in the kitchen just going about their business and having conversations while the parents are saying horrific obscenities upstairs. And the horror of that situation is not addressed. That these parents are constantly at odds. We're supposed to kind of think it's kind of funny that these kids take that contentiousness between their parents in stride. It's not that serious for them. If you've lived long enough and you've seen situations like that in real life, you realize that that's not something that needs to be made light of.
And making light of that is at best irresponsible.
It's irresponsible, and that's the sort of meanness. It's being mean to those characters. It's being mean to these people who don't really realize the abuse they're suffering.
Another example,
and that's something that maybe me as maybe an older critic is going to be picking up on that a younger person might not necessarily pick up on, that hasn't experienced that.
There might be elements of maturity here. I don't mean to make ourselves lofty or anything. I'm just saying this is where we are in our lives. Another example of this is from Grown Ups 2. There's a character in Grown Ups 2, and I cannot remember for the life of me what the name of the actor is, but she's a woman, and she's, I believe, like a weightlifter or a bodybuilder, and she is...
she's not a bodybuilder or a weightlifter at all.
She's not? Okay. No. She's just a not particularly feminine person.
She's 5'10". That's her one. That's her one flaw.
Yeah, and they constantly mock her for that. And then at the end, the movie tries to say it's about why bullying is bad. You can't do that.
Well, and there was
no one learns a lesson about that.
There's another character I think has narcolepsy and he falls asleep and they like hang his body from roofs and like just sort of like they treat him like a mannequin and just beat him up. And,
the movie is saying that it's actually nice. But it's not nice. It's breaking its contract with the audience. It's telling you it's one thing and it's doing something else. It's worth criticizing that.
Yeah, that's what we're here.
Yeah. I hope that answers your question.
Here's another,
and at the very least clarifies where we're coming from.
Here's another tech letter from Brent. Hello, Brent.
Okay.
Dear Bibbs and Witney, I hope this letter finds you well and you are reading it sometime before you review Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. We did it. We did it. We made it under the wire. I recently watched The Women, the 1939 version that was not the more recent remake. During the fashion show segment, several thoughts went through my head, such as, wow, this brought the plot to a screeching halt, and color film stock must have been amazingly expensive in 1939. To clarify, in George Cukor's film The Women, which is shot in black and white, there's a fashion sequence in the middle that was shot in color.
I've actually never seen that movie.
You haven't seen?
I have not. No, that's a big, huge, obvious movie I really should have seen by now, so I'm going to just cop to that.
My other thought was, projectionists must have hated this film. Even with that, I enjoyed the film. I recommend it to everyone who has at least watched one thing on Turner Classic Movies, especially for Joan Crawford's final line, and by the way, there's a name for you ladies, but it isn't used in high society outside of a kennel. Thank you, Joan Crawford. So 2 questions for you. Whitney. Oh, for me. Okay. Have you had the pleasure of projecting this film? Was my guess correct that it would have been a pain in the neck to show? Keep up the good work as a fan. I've been a fan since way back when you guys gave B's to mediocre movies. Brent.
Thank you, Brent. This is more of a you question.
I have projected this movie. In fact, this is the only way I've seen it. I projected it in 16 millimeter, actually. And the version I projected was all in black and white.
Oh.
I did not get the color stock. Color stock prints, like 35 millimeter prints of it, are incredibly rare.
Okay.
Because of the way film was printed, they couldn't have printed color on black and white stock. They actually could have. And in fact, when you printed color film onto black and white stock, it was called through a process called imbibition. And it actually had the colors stay in the film a lot longer. So if you find an old imbibition Technicolor print, we call it IB Tech, the colors are going to be a lot more rich today. They didn't fade as when they printed on color stock. And it's actually not entirely rare, but it's really, really coveted in the world of film collecting. But when they did traveling prints of The Women, they just printed it all on black and white stock. They didn't bother doing the color segment. Had we had the color segment, it would have come on its own reel, which means we would have shown one reel, which is about 20 minutes long. We would have had to change over to the color segment of the film. And then at the very end of that segment, we would have to change right back over into the black and white segment. The color segment is only about 4 minutes, which would have given you a panicked time where you had to take down the last reel, put up the next one, thread it up, and get ready to change over real fast. That would have been a pain in the ass. Projectionists hate that shit. So yeah, it would have been a pain in the ass to project.
Good to know. Good to know.
a little bit of inside baseball there for
There's
you.
a joke in a movie called The Big Picture, starring Kevin Bacon, which is a very inside baseball Hollywood comedy about a film student and his gradual sort of deterioration from idealistic artist to studio hack.
Yeah.
Who somehow, even though he's made that whole transformation, still hasn't made a movie. And there's really good stuff in it. I haven't seen it in a while. I'm not sure how well it's aged, but there's a line in it where he's talking about people saw his short film. They want to give him a chance to make a Hollywood movie. And he has a script. And one of the things is he wants it to be in black and white. And the studio heads are just like, we don't even have projectors that project black and white anymore. And I'm like,
no,
that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. It's the same film stock. You just put it in the camera. But that was there. It's a really funny joke that I've always wondered if people saw that movie who don't know how movies work and thought that was real. Because it sounds
the black and white projector is like a black and white TV.
It almost sounds plausible. Like it almost does. But if you know anything about it, it's not. It's a really funny joke about how dumb that studio guy was.
It's a lamp. You shine it through the film. The lamp is a lamp. It's a lamp. It's just a lamp. It's a big complicated lamp, but it's a lamp.
All right, let's do one or two more.
All right. Here is a letter from Keith. Hello, Bibbs and Witney. I have a quick question for you, too, with Disney purchasing 20th Century Fox.
Okay.
All I heard from people was how cool it was going to be to see the X-Men and the Fantastic Four in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but I don't see any discussion on the monopolistic aspect of this purchase. With Disney purchasing a huge studio that's going to impact what kind of material gets released to the public, and what gives Disney a bigger advantage than it already has, because before the summer is over, they would have released Black Panther, Solo, a new Star Wars movie, The Incredibles 2, and Avengers Infinity War. Am I the only one who fears Disney having this much control over the market and what it'll do to the industry? Keith.
You're not, actually.
You're not the only one. In fact, there were a lot of essays about just the sort of entertainment monopoly. And yeah, it was kind of a pity that when they made the announcement, the sale hasn't gone through, by the way.
It's still not official.
And we're actually in a point where Comcast is coming through and trying to buy Fox instead. Mm-hmm. So the Disney thing might not even happen. And even if it does, the government might stop it.
Yeah.
Those sort of monopolies are, the government does get involved. This government, who's to say? But, yeah, there is a lot of concern from a lot of pundits and critics and people who are just sort of paying attention to the industry, what this is going to do in terms of the type of art we are granted access to. Mm-hmm. If Disney has their own streaming service and they begin to dominate the market, and they already own like a pretty sizable portion of Hollywood box office, I think it was like around 30%, that's huge.
Yeah. That's
huge. Disney owns like 30% of the entire box office receipts for a year, and I think this would bump it up to like almost half. Like it would go up to like somewhere in the 40s. Like the percentage would be all owned by one studio. Yeah, first of all, this allows them dominance of the market in a really... We've talked about this on podcasts in the past, but this would offer them dominance of sort of theatrical distribution.
Well, because
they would be able to dictate terms to theaters as to the way their films get released.
Yeah.
What kind of coupons, what kind of discounts, what kind of pricing theaters would be forced to do.
Yeah.
So they would be able to sort of dictate ticket prices in a way that other studios wouldn't be able to do. They would essentially own a monopoly of the way theaters operate, and the theaters should dictate that. NATO should. That's North American theater owners.
Yeah,
would be
not
able
the
to,
other NATO.
Not the other NATO. Should dictate that sort of thing.
And here's another thing that people don't think about a lot, and I've heard it mentioned, but I don't think it's enough of the conversation we come to, because I know everyone's like, "Oh, it's so exciting! We have all the Marvel movies under the same banner." There are huge downsides, and one of the downsides is studios don't open their movies against each other. Like, Disney's not going to put out two big Disney movies on the same weekend.
Wouldn't it be great if they did? Like,
It'd be cool
Avengers and Star Wars on the same day.
That'd be weird, right?
Yeah.
But, like, they're not going to do that because they're going to eat into each other. They don't want to eat into their own profits. But studios will compete against each other. They'll compete against each other, so they'll be, like, multiple summer releases. If you take Fox out of the equation, Fox is one of the big ones. It's like Fox... Disney, Universal, and like to a lesser extent, Paramount.
Paramount and Warner Brothers.
And Warner Brothers and Paramount is struggling to stay in there. You take one of those out, that's less movies. They're not, even if they keep Fox open and still do their own thing, they're not going to compete with themselves very much. We are going to change that landscape, and we're going to change the number of movies that can be made on that studio size and scale. And it will change. It might not change dramatically. It might not even change obviously at first. But it would shift.
Yeah.
And that's a thing that we would have to deal with.
There would be fewer movies. There would be fewer people working in the industry. This not only ensures that there would be fewer films, but a less variety in the types of films we get. Like, imagine... I
would like to think that Disney would keep Fox Searchlight as, like, their new Miramax.
Maybe so, but,
back in the day, Disney had Miramax, and that was their... art house stuff.
Yeah.
And now they don't really have one right now.
They also had Hollywood Pictures, and Buena Vista Pictures was a different thing. Touchstone was, I think, for a while there. They had these different sort of banners that they could release, but I feel like when they're united under sort of a single master aesthetic, that even films of the same genre would start to look like each other more, and they'd all look like the Disney mold. That's really popular right now. A lot of people are already sick of it.
Yeah.
Imagine if all of them looked that way. I actually wrote an essay for IGN about the loss of Fox's X-Men aesthetic. Even though they're still just superhero movies, and they still sort of scratch the same itch and have that same sort of shiny, over-moneyed studio aesthetic, they're at least coming at it from kind of a different angle. You look back at the first X-Men movie, they're trying to make it look unique. Everything's really kind of steely. The outfits are all really black. And I understand people say, oh, that's just fashion. That's what the 2000s were. No, Bryan Singer was trying to make a movie version of the X-Men. And they were really trying to go for something a little bit more daring. And you look at some of the other things that the X-Men stories were doing about these wild time travel plots, or a TV show like Legion, which is practically abstract. I have a feeling like that Disney, in trying to sort of gather everything under the same aesthetic banner, wouldn't take those sorts of chances, even in a big kind of bland blockbuster franchise like the X-Men. On the other side of this, who's getting the money from the Fox purchase?
Yeah.
Who's going to have that $53 billion to kick around? Rupert Murdoch.
And the intent is to only focus on Fox News. So that's just injecting a ton of business capital into... listen, regardless of your politics, let's be honest here. They have an ethos. It's a propaganda network.
It's a biased ethos network. So all of that money is going to this weird political bias on the other side of the news/entertainment side of this equation.
And I know that sounds like we're talking about like a conspiracy theory. It's just literally what's going to happen. Disney is going to spend billions of dollars, and it's all going to go to Fox News. Now, if that's your news channel, I understand why that wouldn't bother you, but if it's not, that basically makes this incredibly potent political force all that much more dominating and powerful, and that is really bad for discourse in this country if any one side dominates the whole conversation.
Especially right now, when everybody's wailing about fake news, and there is a lot of sort of bias in coming out of Fox News and other news outlets as well, and sort of the way the news is being handled in this really contentious era, and all of a sudden there's this $53 billion influx to one side. It's just going to confuse the matter. So, yeah, there's not a lot of good that can come out of Disney purchasing Fox. And, watching Wolverine fight Captain America is not going to be worth the trade.
All right, let's end on a fun one.
All right.
Let's end on a fun one. This is from Topher the Elder.
Hello, Topher the Elder.
Topher is a big supporter of ours, and we always appreciate hearing from you.
Indeed.
This email is from a while ago, and we apologize.
Okay.
I am starting this on the eve of my last week at my current job before I start my new job.
Okay.
Good change. His remark. Good change. I'm glad to hear it. I was thinking about movies that have people starting new jobs, and I wanted to challenge you to a list. Here's a few I thought of. New in Town, starring Renee Zellweger and Harry Connick Jr. He says it's delightful. I haven't seen that one.
I haven't seen that one either.
The Freshman, starring Matthew Broderick and Marlon Brando. He says you liked it more than I did. I love that movie, and so I love it.
It's been, you know what? I will not comment because it's been too long since I've seen it.
Head Office, starring Judge Reinhold and everybody else. Bitter and cynical.
Well, I love Bitter and Cynical. For
Pete's sake, Barbra Streisand, least known Barbra Streisand movie ever, which I saw in theater with my parents 3 times. Doesn't say whether it's good or not. I haven't seen that one.
I don't even know that movie, For Pete's sake.
Okay. Yeah. Working Girl. Melanie Griffith, Harrison Ford, Sigourney Weaver. Way too much cast for this anemic script. I happen to like that one, but okay. What about other good new job movies?
Good new job movies. Swimming with Sharks.
Oof,
Frank Whaley takes
a painful movie, man.
Well, especially for us who have tried to get jobs in the industry, it's particularly painful. But yeah, Frank Whaley plays a young man who tries to get a job in the film industry, in the studio offices. And he has the boss from hell, who is played by Kevin Spacey, doing what he does best, berating people.
Yeah, and especially like knowing what we all know now about Kevin Spacey, you can see why he was so good at this.
Yeah.
It's a really toxic movie, but it's about a toxic subject, so it works. It's one of the more mean-spirited and cynical movies ever made by the entertainment industry. If you're looking for a movie to inspire you about getting a new job, this is not one of them. But it's a good movie.
It's a good movie. And it's also kind of accurate.
Yeah, it's way too accurate.
It's pretty accurate. It was
way too accurate.
When it was released, it was billed as this sort of dark comedy. No, it's just dark. It's just dark.
You've been in the industry long enough, you've seen this. An obvious one, but a great one, The Devil Wears Prada.
Oh, there you go.
Anne Hathaway gets an internship or like an assistant gig in the fashion industry. Meryl Streep is the devil. But is she really? And I think the movie is actually really just sharp, and it's funny, but it's sweet. It has a lot of fair commentary. It's also, can be kind of mean sometimes. I can't say I approve of the way Anne Hathaway sort of adapts to the world of skinniness. Like she talks about, I got myself down to like a size 2 or whatever, and it's just like, you were really thin. You were already Anne Hathaway. Thin. Yeah, I can't quite get behind that, but whatever. It's still a really good movie. Another one that comes to mind, I don't think people talk about it enough. It's a slight comedy, but I think it's good. It's called Sunshine Cleaning.
Oh, that is a good one.
Yeah, starring Amy Adams, and I think Emily Blunt is her sister in that, right?
Yeah.
And they're sisters, and they're in dire financial straits, and they find out about a job they didn't know existed. There's a job, and it's an important job, of people who clean up after dead bodies.
They clean up after crime scenes.
Yeah, not illegally. Just, someone got shot in this restaurant. Okay. Well, someone needs to clean that up.
Yeah, the restaurant, and so there's
it's biological waste. So you don't just want the janitor to do that. That's a different job, and they find out that's a thing, and they get good at it.
I knew that was a thing because of a movie called Curdled, which came out about a decade before,
which is actually in the Pulp Fiction universe.
Yeah, it's the same character from Pulp Fiction.
It's the same character.
It's the same actress who played the cab driver in that scene in Pulp Fiction.
It was my understanding that was the same character. Okay. I could be wrong. But it's my understanding that was the actress who plays the cab driver in Pulp Fiction is the same character who stars in
Tarantino produced it, so yeah, it has that imprimatur anyway.
Anyway, Sunshine Cleaning is a fun little flick.
Yeah, that's more like entrepreneur starting your own business sort of thing. It's not fair. Like first job. I'm trying to think of things about like starting a job. I can think of many great films about
starting a business,
starting a business, or just good workplace films.
I got one. Men in Black.
Well, and I was also trying to skew away from like Hellboy and like fantasy stuff.
But Men in Black is a really good one about finding a new job, entering a whole new business office space, and it works.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had to look this one up. There was a really great Israeli workplace comedy from a couple of years back called Zero Motivation, which in Israel, military service is compulsory. And this is about a group of young women who have to take a job in a military office to fulfill their military quotient, and it is the most boring place in the world. And the entire movie is about how they fight off boredom by like having chair races and how many rules they can break and like just spilling tea, and they just don't give a crap about anything, and just
that sounds really good.
Trying to make sure their brains don't atrophy, and it's actually hilarious. Just the antics they got to.
That's really cool. I'll have to check that one out.
Zero Motivation is a really good one.
All right, well, everybody, thank you very much for writing in. Thank you everybody for liking us on YouTube, leaving the comments on the Schmoes Know iTunes feed, leaving comments everywhere you can, tweeting us, sending us the emails, criticallyacclaimedfans@gmail.com. Write us a letter. We might read it on the air and answer your questions. Next week, we will be back with reviews of the new movies Deadpool 2 and Book Club.
Yeah.
Which is about a book club.
It's about a book club that reads porn.
It's about a book club that reads 50 Shades of Grey, and I don't care about any of that because it stars Mary Steenburgen.
And Diane Keaton.
Yeah, it's a really...
Candace Bergen.
Jane Fonda. That's a good cast, and I want to see that movie. I'm looking forward to that. And we will also review the winner of the new critically acclaimed poll that is currently live on the Schmoville Facebook page. Again, your options are Howard the Duck, Green Lantern, and Spawn. Vote for the one you want us to review next week, and we will pair it with a great movie that will match up quite nicely, we feel. Whatever it is.
Golly, what do we match with Howard the Duck?
Oh, I have ideas, but we're not going to talk about it until we don't want to jinx it. We're going to talk about it after they vote. And hey, people did not like that Green Lantern movie. Maybe that'll make it. That's a thing.
How much do you hate us?
Let's find out. So that's what's going on next week. Don't forget, you can always listen to us every week on the Canceled Too Soon podcast, where we review TV series that lasted only one season or less. Our most recent episode is the Canceled Too Soon Awards, which is a huge overview of all the best, worst, and weirdest shows we've discovered on that program.
From the last year. And then next week, we're going to be reviewing Cop Rock, a serious
messed up, dramatic series. Sergio doesn't like it. Sergio has problems with cop rock.
It's a cop series, and it's also a musical.
Every week, it's also a musical, and it is a calamitous experience, and we can't wait to share that with you as well. So thank you, everybody, for listening. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at William Bibbiani.
I'm at Witney Seibold.
And never forget, everyone's a critic.
I want to go to the midnight show. I'm sorry, what?